Welcome, everyone. We're late, but in Guam, we're early, so there's that. Good to have you with us. I'm Dan McDermott, your host in beautiful Bentonville, Virginia, population several hundred. Let's introduce our panel. We have from New York, one of my co-hosts, Mr. Alan Furstenberg. Welcome, Alan. How are you, sir?
Hey, Dan. Peachy keen. How about you?
Doing well, thank you. In the Navajo rainforest in Idaho, we have Mr. Harold Carey Jr. Welcome. How are you, sir?
Yata A. That's welcome in Navajo.
See, the reason he's on the program is he went through this like 80-day hangout in the early days of Google Plus, which was just training for this program. So
yeah,
we're good to have him.
I was your second guest on your second show.
Absolutely. Then Alan joined because he was mad at me about something.
Yeah.
And then we have our next guest is
because
Charlie.
You were wrong, Dan. Let's remember why I joined. Because you were wrong.
I stand corrected. Unlike Alan, who's never
Again.
corrected. Charlie joins us from Newport Beach, California. Welcome, Charlie. How are you?
Pretty good.
So you have a matching hat.
Yeah, I found it. Made it myself.
Randomly just grabbed it. Cadeas is in the other room looking for his hat. Cadeas Colette's chair joins us. Michael Ellis joins us. Am I allowed to say where you are, sir?
Yes.
Oh, it
I'm
says
in
from
Darwin,
China.
China.
We're actually going to do the entire program after the intros are done in simplified Mandarin. And Michael is here to glare at us if we make any slight errors. So what are you doing in China, sir? And how are you able to join us? Are they allowed to do Hangouts?
No. So I don't know how long this will work. I learned that to use Google apps and Google products generally in China, you need to VPN out of the country into a Western country. China doesn't block the Google services, but they throttle the services so severely that the Chinese population are not interested in them. So
you're basically risking your life. You're the Richard Engel of Google Plus Week right now.
That's correct.
As long as we don't use the T word or the DL word,
right,
then we'll be okay, hopefully.
And I don't think I'll be able to stay very long because it's now morning here and we have plans for the day. So I wanted to be on long enough to say hello at least.
You're not normally drinking coffee or tea in this program, but I guess it's a new week.
You had
But you didn't answer why are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm working with a customer here that's making a significant system upgrade. It's a U.S.-based company that has a plant here in China.
Okay.
And last question: ERP is what? Your tagline? We make ERP work.
Oh, enterprise resource planning.
Well, now I completely understand it. Okay.
It's business computers.
It's computer stuff. Oleg Moskalentsy joins us from the Crimean region, formerly of Ukraine. Welcome, Oleg. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Hello.
We've installed a subtitle machine for Oleg, so when he talks, I'm just kidding. But we'll try not to make too many Ukrainian jokes with Oleg. Okay, and Pam Adger joins us in Menifee, California. Welcome, Pam.
Hi, Dan. Hi, everybody.
All right. She'll be more outspoken when she's angry at us. Cadeas Colette joins us in Newport Beach, California. Did you find the hat? Charlie stole your hat, I think.
I didn't find the hat. We're good.
All right. So we'll just trudge on without it. Life is full of change and disappointment. All right. So our first story is we're talking. I'm sure most of you have tuned in for this one story. So okay, here's the headline. I think this is Alan's work. Google finally did it. Google Play Music and Movies, the Chromecast, Nexus 5 and 7 are now available from the Play Store in more European countries. The source is Google Play. Multiple stories and links. Here's a link to the Google Play page on Google+. So this is cool. This is great because it kind of sucks that often these countries get, I remember Moritz didn't have certain features because he was in Germany when we first started. But yeah, so tell us about this, Alan.
What makes you think I know anything about it?
Who put it in? Did you put it in?
No, I didn't put anything in.
Oh. You didn't do this in the car while you were balancing your...
Okay, just because I put the stories in doesn't mean that I either read them or understand them, okay?
Oh my
So these are for you guys to talk about, but I put them all in, but I am not the expert.
Welcome to 4 hours of fail.
So Google decides to launch Chromecast everywhere. This is good, so now more people can get involved.
Excellent.
Yeah, this is what was really nice. If you watch the streams and stuff, there's a whole bunch of people from Australia and England that say, I just got my Chromecast. There was a whole bunch of things, and people are so excited. The stream was just full of that stuff today. That people were getting all this.
All right. Well, would anyone like to...
Elaborate?
Actually, what I think is the more amazing part to me is that the Chromecast finally made it to Canada. Forget Europe, who actually gets some Google stuff every so often. It's in Canada, who almost never gets Google stuff. I didn't even think Google Play Music or Google Play Videos were in Canada yet. And they may not be.
What's the holdup? I mean, they're fairly close.
They're not the U.S., and everyone thinks they are. So when they try to do something, they kind of like, oh, you mean they're not included? No, what it boils down to is their copyright, their artist league basically is a lot more aggressive than the MPAA and RIAA, if you can believe that.
And that's saying something, yeah.
Yeah.
Are there ways around it? Like, are we like a lot of the things, like, for example,
No,
using a Hangout early on, there were
no
VPNs.
way around it at all. Why the barrier technology is absolutely permanent. It's impossible to masquerade the fact that you're from the. Come on, of course it's possible. Let me put it this way. I know when I was in California with a bunch of other people in November, all of them went out to get boxes of Chromecasts, and the reason why they got boxes of Chromecasts to take back home overseas is because they would use them there. Everyone there has a U.S. credit card. Everyone there has a U.S. Google Play account. It's a joke. So, it's really only a problem for people who are trying to be perfectly honest, which is pretty close to nobody. We actually almost have a story about this later in the show.
Okay.
About this, about Turkey. But no, of course everyone knows how to get around their local firewalls.
Now, this isn't, I mean, typically, most of these products, when they come out, they'll say it's only U.S. or these select countries. Usually this is the reason, right? It's dealing with the red tape and the bureaucracy or the different laws and negotiating things with the various rights holders for different things. That's usually the holdup.
That's the biggest holdup. I mean, part of it is also translating it into local languages, but if it wasn't for the bureaucratic hurdles, the translation hurdles are a lot easier to deal with. I mean, Michael Ellis can correct me on that, but I'm willing to bet that translation is far easier than dealing with bureaucracy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If they hired Ellis, they could launch in all countries simultaneously. That could be their secret weapon.
True.
Well,
So, Alan, why do you think people even bother then, in terms of people being Google? Even trying to put it in those countries legally, officially, if basically what you're saying is going on anyway, just in a semi-under-the-table manner, most people. Why is there any resources to try to do it where it's official fanfare. We're now in so many countries and so on and so forth.
I'm guessing, and this is purely a guess, it's because Google wants to at least make an appearance before the local officials that they're playing nice with taxes. So that, the Google Play Store in Portugal or Canada at least is pretending to pay taxes to the local authorities, as opposed to outright flaunting it. Now, they are flaunting it just the same way Apple is, but they're at least pretending.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, one of the cool things kind of related to this is the things that I like the most today is they have this new thing that was out. If you say, "Okay, Google, play some music," it plays music for you. Have you guys seen that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was really cool. That it actually picked a radio station and played music. It played Mandy Moore for me.
You can even
Now
take
people in Europe can have that.
camera on now, but you can't take any pictures yet. You can turn it on.
Yeah, it shows a picture of who's playing. It was interesting. I've never seen that before.
We've got a couple of comments from Kevin. It's difficult to get through the red tape in Canada. That's why a lot of Canadians cross-border shop. They have some real provincial rights, so you have to deal with essentially 12 different powerful governments to get things done. But he is thrilled that Chromecast finally got to Canada. So there you have it.
Dan is yawning.
It's a great little device. It really is. Speaking of the Chromecast, there's an issue about, or comparison here. There's one article we linked to, and this is from The Verge, but I saw several stories about this. This is, the Roku is coming out with a dongle. It has a remote control, and it's going to be different. I think it's going to have more services built into it, like Amazon Prime Video will work with the Roku. But another issue that just anecdotally that I forget, I've talked to him on Twitter. I can't remember his name right now. I only recently met him or whatever, but he's the Quartz editor, and he had a prescient observation. He said, we're going to have to stop calling these set-top boxes because they're not boxes, and you no longer have a top of your TV set. You could put a box on anyway. But it's the Roku. I've talked to everyone I've met who has a Roku, loves it, and I think Craig Shipp has one. I'm not sure. And so, how do you guys view this shootout? And you guys have a Roku, and what do you view as the strengths and weaknesses of one or the other?
Yeah, I have a Roku, and I use it much more than my Chromecast because it has so many more features, and the Netflix on there runs better, and I can use Amazon Prime on there. So the Roku gives me both Netflix and Amazon Prime, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Lots of local stations like the BYU TV and Glenn Beck shows, all kinds of things, and like it has almost I think it's around 80 different channels.
What is what is there anything the Chromecast can do that the Roku cannot?
Yes, you can. Yeah, what I love about the reason I use it is when I want to broadcast my screen. So if I just open my browser, and the stuff on my browser, I can send anything to my screen and watch almost anything you want that's on your screen send it up there.
That's pretty impressive, considering that's like the worst thing that it does.
I know, but that's the only thing that's the only thing it does that Roku doesn't.
And also keep in mind that all those services that you're listing, it doesn't take much to actually add those services to the Chromecast. I mean, you can go as far as even casting a website. So all the services that you list, Chromecast can do. If Amazon Prime will just do what they need to do to make it happen, which
But
is
they don't
just
have a motivation to do that, right? That's the problem.
Right. I'm not sure I'd call it well, that's the problem for us.
Right.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Amazon is eager to have you buy a Kindle or their upcoming long-rumored set-top box, which will also be misnamed likely. What's the cost of this Roku dongle versus the Chromecast? And is this the new Roku, or is this a scaled down, less feature-rich in some way from the traditional Roku?
My understanding, this is a new one, and I believe I saw somewhere that it was priced either $35 or $50.
Yes, that's what I heard. $50 or less.
And that's with a remote, which the Chromecast does not have.
Why the hell are people so? Never mind. You know what? I'm going to be saying this all night, so why bother?
I'll tell you what. There's a difference
the Chromecast
between.
The Chromecast does have a remote. Has right here.
There's a difference
That's the
between a
remote.
dedicated remote and having to turn your phone on. I just took a picture today. I took a picture
seriously,
and I wait.
if you need a remote that badly, and the consumer wants a remote that badly, again, Google. Software
I'm not
that goes on
saying
this,
you
and
need
it
a
will be
remote, and I don't need a remote. I don't need a remote badly. I'm just saying that a dedicated hardware device is often superior than an app on a multi-purpose device like a phone.
Except it
to the
isn't in this
efficient
case. But
a DVD player versus using your laptop and then run the software and then
But that's not what it is.
What is it, Alan?
It's not, oh, I got to do this, and then I got to run the software, and then I got to do this, and then I got to do this. It's the fact that you've got a full-featured application on your phone that's controlling what the hell's on the screen, as opposed to having to use a stupid-ass joystick to try to control things on your screen. How in the hell are you going to type in the name of a movie that you want? Click, click, click.
No, you
Come
just
on,
hit the
people.
up arrow to the ABC button.
Excuse me.
So keep in mind.
Wait. That's how Samsung's little live TV thing works. You have the regular TV remote, and in order to get the letters, you have to click the right arrow to go A, B, C, D, D, and then hit enter, and then So if you can watch YouTube. Or whatever from my Samsung TV, but just finding something, I mean, heaven forbid the frickin' title's long, right? I mean, you have to type all these, it's horrible. So
now keep in mind that meltdown that Alan just had was the exact same meltdown that I had when Charlie continued to use Apple TV when I was saying we have Chromecast, there's no point in it. I literally had to melt down and tell him the exact same thing. Why do you keep using this raggedy remote when all you have to do is use your phone? Now he swears by it. That's all he ever used.
What, one button?
Exactly.
Okay,
So
here's the deal. Look, to be fair here, I've got my this is the Vizio remote.
You got your utterly ghetto remote.
What is that, Dan? Look at that.
Okay, listen.
Let's be honest here.
Let me say, listen. There are certain applications. There are certain applications.
What the heck?
Okay, look. Let me give me a second here. Alan's been cooped up in a car for 5 hours, so he's obviously not impacted his level of energy. So, if I had to use this little ghetto ass keyboard to type in, I'm looking for The West Wing episode 1 again.
Dan, let me ask you something.
Then that
Why
would
the hell
suck.
don't you have a slide-out keyboard for your phone? If it's so freaking awesome, why don't you have one for your phone?
God,
because it's not freaking awesome.
I don't like it. I didn't say it's. I agree it sucks. I agree it sucks. But
Thank you. So I'm right again. Thank you for admitting.
No, what I'm saying is there are certain things I hate about this, like the slide-out keyboard and trying to search for something with this and the up arrow and, give me a break. That sucks. I very much prefer to have my television connected to my actual computer, and then I can just slide a Chrome window over and watch Netflix that way. I never use the built-in apps now that it's connected to my computer. But if it weren't connected to my computer, a Chromecast would be superior than the built-in. I would rather use the Chromecast for Netflix than to use the built-in Vizio Netflix app by Yahoo, because that one sucks and the Chromecast one doesn't. That said, the ability to change a channel or whatever on a remote sitting there and not have to pick my phone up, hit the power button, slide, go to the app, the Chromecast app. I mean, that I can't stand. So there is an argument for certain functions of a remote.
But Dan, nobody's changing channels anymore. You find the show you want to watch and then you start it. You don't have to change the channel. We don't function that way anymore. We're using Hulu, Netflix, all the other services. So you don't need that.
I miss the old days when you changed channels.
Dan,
and they came on right away. You didn't have to wait 10 seconds or a second and a half for the channel to come on. You could just go click, 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 and find something good. Now you got to click, wait.
Oh, Dan.
Okay. Click.
I have DirecTV, and the DirecTV app totally removes. I have my tab 10-inch tab, Samsung Tab 2,
Wow.
Tab 10, and I run that. That's what I use for everything. I use it for my Chromecast. I use it for my DirecTV. Everything's
When you
done
say
on that. I
10-inch
don't have to
tab,
use
you
my
talking
remote
about
at all.
what do you mean? That's an app on your tablet?
Yeah, the DirecTV app has, not only does it have all the features of the remote control, I can actually watch a different channel than my wife is watching on the TV on my remote. That you can actually watch one channel on my tablet as my wife's watching another channel on the TV, and I can stop and start hers or mine.
Dan,
It's really,
you sound confused by this whole app thing. You understand what apps are, right?
What I'm listen, I mean, you're not understanding my argument.
No, I am understanding what your
better
argument.
analogy would be
wrong.
your Nikon camera versus your shitty phone camera app. If you're waiting for the meteorite to go by,
the analogy would be if my Nikon could be controlled by my phone, so that I could click the shutter from my phone, and so I could set up my camera in the perfect location, and then wherever I want, I could take pictures from my phone.
I'm just saying that if I had a choice, if I was watching conventional television, or if I want to adjust the volume on a device, and I had a remote control like this sitting there with the volume up and down, and that's all it did, or I could turn my phone on, I could hit the power button. Where's it? Okay, here it is. Then okay, let me wait for the thing to come on. Let me swipe, and then let me find the app to the volume.
Okay,
but
Dan,
that's what I'm saying. I'd rather just click the damn thing.
Dan, on that point, you're absolutely right. Except for the fact that that's not how the Chromecast works.
I understand. You initiate it. Yeah, I've used it. I have one.
Works. You turn your phone on.
Wait, does he have it?
Sitting right there on the lock screen.
Dan, do you have the Chromecast?
I have one. Honestly, my housekeeper's borrowed it. And
your housekeeper borrowed it 6 months ago.
And I don't miss it because I have, like I said, if you have a television that is not connected to a computer, the Chromecast is awesome. If you have a television that is your primary or secondary screen for your regular computer that you're at anyway, then there's nothing the Chromecast does that this doesn't do. This is far superior setup. So if I want to watch, I mean, this is my screen. If I wanted to watch, it's a 32-inch Vizio TV, 4 feet from me. If I want to watch Netflix, I can drag a window and open it up.
If what you wanted to do was be able to watch Netflix at the same time you actually used your computer for something, multitasking, which I'm given to understand you do on occasion.
Where's my Ritalin? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
But that's what people do. I mean, people are using their computer, they're using their tablets, they're using their devices at the same time they're watching TV. At the same time they've got music playing. At the same time 20 other things are going on.
Cadiz has a comment.
You're going to say, well, my computer is just plugged into my TV, so it's fine that I'm only doing one thing at a time.
Yeah, the days of most people just sitting on the couch with a mint julep watching, Gone, whatever movie, and just sitting through the commercials because you had to get up and change the channel. Those days are long gone. Cadiz, did you have a comment you want to show?
I was just going to say that that Quartz is saying here that it takes us about 1 or 2 seconds for his TV to change when he wants to change the channel too. So it's no different from any of the other services, basically.
Well, I agree with that, Charles, and that's frustrating because in the old days when you would change a channel, it would change the channel. But now there's a built-in feature because if you to avoid hash noise, like you used to have on a TV, an analog dial TV or whatever, if you hit a bad channel, then there would be the. And so to prevent that, they wait for a second, they analyze, is there a good signal, and then if so, they play it. I actually hate that. But I wouldn't want loud through my studio speaker system, the hash noise either. Alan, but for like a volume control or something, it's immediate and fast. Those are there are ways that a remote shines over an app, and there are more ways that an app shines over a remote. But I'm saying there are some functions of a remote that should not be discounted out of hand and say there's no value to a remote. Or no reason why someone would want one when that's not the case. Go ahead, Alan.
Couple of comments. This one from Gerwin. Fun thing, they have the Chromecast in Austria now. They also sell devices via the Play Store. They don't sell the Chromecast via the Play Store.
I wasn't kidding when I said tonight 4 hours of fail. Go ahead, Alan.
He also points out, however, that since they still don't have Play Movies, which makes the Chromecast a lot more useless than it should be, this one from Thomas, I can pay $45 and get a quad-core Android TV box that can do anything without needing a secondary device to launch the content. Here's the thing, though, Thomas. I think there's actually value in having the secondary device launch the content. Not
streaming
not
it.
Stream the content, but control the content. Because the $45 US box, the $45 box still needs the keyboard to control it.
And you can't
So
walk
you
around
do
the
have a
living
secondary
room.
Device.
You
Just
can't walk
it's
around
a
the
keyboard as opposed to a mobile device.
and you can't walk around the living room with your Android streaming box like you can with.
And then
the Chromecast
Cybernaut
app.
jumps in and says that some people like to kick it on their couch with their family instead of crowding around a computer desk, Dan.
Touche. Absolutely.
Okay, and this one from Kevin. In general, specific hardware is better than a general-purpose smartphone, but in this case, an app on your phone is far superior for TV control.
The thing I was pointing
Kevin
to
Bryan is
was
right.
simple functions like volume. I assume there's a volume control on this, that sort of thing. That would be neat to have, rather than to have to activate an app. The power of an app is far superior, but there's some functions that are. I still like having my shitty Vizio remote control, even though I don't
On
use
some
it
level,
for
I
most
almost
things.
agree with that. Almost.
So we have a TV, right? It's I don't know, some Samsung thing, and we also have a DVD player, Blu-ray player, whatever you want to call it, okay, from Sony, and we have the cable box, right? And we have a receiver, okay?
How many remotes do you have, Pam?
4.
4 remotes. You know.
Four remotes.
You know,
And
Pam.
Wait. The cable company, right? Their remote is supposedly universal. However, for some reason, it doesn't support the Samsung TV, or the Sony DVD player, or the receiver. So we have to use all 4 remotes to switch up and down the channel, the sound. If we want to switch over to a movie, we got to do this thing on the TV, and it puts it over to another port. Then we got to find the remote for the DVD player. Where the fuck? Oh, sorry.
Put a hanger. Put a hanger on the antenna on the one of the ears.
You can buy a remote that actually will control all of them from Logitech. That'll set you back about $300.
Yeah,
or like 100. It's a Harmony remote. I have that remote.
No.
Or you can get a phone for the same freaking price.
And then just run everything through Chromecast.
You know what, though? I'll tell you what, Alan. If your Chromecast, and I'm a fan of Chromecast, but if
you can tell how big a fan of Chromecast you are.
That I loaned it and had forgotten that if the Chromecast came with a remote that would, for example, control volume and pause and restart, you absolutely would not throw that in the trash. You would.
Oh my God, Dan! Oh my God! Freaking, your app is gonna control your start and your stop.
Your phone becomes your remote.
I understand. I'm just saying that if you had a
it doesn't, Dan.
If there was a dedicated device that did it, it's quicker, just like the TV volume.
Still a dedicated device.
Wait, it would be a week. It would be a week before you lost that freaking remote to the Chromecast.
Okay, question, Cadeus. How do you mute and unmute your microphone?
How do I? You talking about in Hangouts?
Yeah.
I'm doing Control D.
Okay, is that quicker, or would it be quicker if you had to have an app on your phone that would mute and unmute your microphone?
Well, wouldn't Control D be the equivalent of that app?
No, we're arguing. We're not we're debating phone versus dedicated hardware functions versus phone apps.
Let's say you have a remote this big. How long do you think it would be before you misplaced it somewhere? So of course your phone would be faster because you would be able to open up the app, click the up and down volume thing before you found this under the couch cushion.
I would only be missing it until Sunday when my housekeeper comes.
Here's another scenario for you. Okay, so let's say you're watching a movie, and at the same time you're probably holding your phone and playing Flappy Bird because you're always doing more than one thing at once, right? Actually, you're probably playing 2048. Much better game. So you're playing 2048 while watching the movie, and you suddenly need to pause it. Okay? So if you're using your phone, you swipe down, you hit the pause button, because you're already holding it. For the remote, first you have to find the remote, which, who the hell knows where you dropped it? For all you know, you left it all the way on the TV already. Okay, so I've now painted, at least, Pam has painted a scenario, Cadeas has painted a scenario, I've painted a scenario where using your phone is faster than using your remote.
Well, Dan,
Dan, why are you so anti-technology? What is this?
Listen, guys, I'm just telling you guys are ignoring my argument. There are many ways that the app is better.
You just think you're wrong.
I have, for example, I have my Chromecast connected to the TV. I also had the TV connected to my computer. So I found that I was never after I initially played with it, because the television was connected to the computer, I really had no use for the Chromecast, because the speed and functionality of being able to drag a window over the television was far superior than having to use my phone app. There was nothing that the Chromecast does that
you're saying the computer it's much more comfortable to sit in your office chair with the keyboard on your lap and watch TV.
I'm saying that's not the relevant point. That's where my TV is.
No, it's entirely the relevant point.
I don't even know what the argument is. I mean, we're all talking about remote controls.
I think it's if I walked on water.
1984. There's the remote control that Dan has with a freaking slide-out keyboard. There's the Roku remote control, which is basically just a D-pad, and then there's the phone, which is a remote control. They're all freaking remote controls.
This all started because they were dismissive of the remote control that comes with the Roku. Alan thought it was stupid, and I was like, no, there might be some value to that.
It is stupid.
I don't think it's stupid. I think there might be some value to it. None of us have even any idea. None of us even know what functionality there might be with it. And
sure we do. We've seen pictures of it. It looks like a remote control. It's got a billion buttons on it.
It controls things remotely, Dan.
That's it.
Fucking stink bug. Sorry. Where is it? There you go.
Well, Dan,
HD, baby.
All right, so let's just wrap this up.
Let's always do.
Yeah,
let's wrap this up. So basically, Dan's wrong. Everybody else is right. Google, congratulations. The rest of the world gets it. Let's move on. Next topic.
Well, no, but I think
now it's on my crotch.
Here's the issue. The reason why. No, Charlie. This is actually going to make sense later in the show, because I said this already that it's going to be a recurring theme tonight. Okay, people are familiar with this concept that dates back to a box on a wire that runs to your TV, and when you hit the button, it goes cha-chunk and changes the channel. They're familiar with that.
Maybe maybe it would have more appeal to a grandma than the Chromecast would.
Are going to like the remote control, and everyone else is going to find the control via a smartphone or a tablet intuitively obvious. If we do not see the concept of a remote control vanish in the next 5 years, I will be shocked. That's my prediction. The Roku has a remote control as a holdover, and the concept will not exist in 5 years.
So that concludes that topic.
Yeah.
And you'll see me say that again later tonight.
Okay, so next up, didn't we cover this? It's new. It's the all new. The new all new sheets.
We covered this briefly, but what this we mentioned a while back. Well, Dan, you have been watching this show again. I'm very impressed with you.
I was awake that week.
We did cover how Google Sheets was rolling out a new version. Previously, it was you needed to opt in. Now we are seeing that companies that were basically companies that use Google Apps, they're going to be opting into it shortly within the next few weeks as the new feature auto use. So more and more they're going to be pushing people to using Google Sheets, the new Google Sheets, even though the product is nowhere near ready to be released. And as much as I like the new Sheets, it's got some serious, serious flaws in it yet, and some serious gaps, and I find it very, almost insulting that they're pushing this into production without these fixes being in place. Has anyone else tried the new sheets yet?
Yeah, I have.
What do you think, Harold?
It's it basically, the new sheets have absolutely no use unless you're really a heavy user. I use it for my budget and a few other things, and it makes absolutely no difference unless you're a heavy user of really, really large spreadsheets.
I like that it's faster. I mean, it's still not as fast as far as scrolling goes, that it's faster. It's still not as fast as I'd like it to be, but I guess that's what you get with web apps, I guess. But it definitely is faster than it used to be.
And it does have some cool new features. I mean, add-ons, which we reported on last week before, they only work with the new sheets. So that's certainly a bonus. But things like the API, there is no API for the new sheets yet. The old API doesn't work with it, and they've been pretty mum about when or if we're going to be getting an API. So lots of applications that have been written to use to use spreadsheets don't work. There have been problems with internationalization that I saw a stink bug dash across the screen. Dan is back.
That's actually me, Alan, not a stink bug. They only just fixed the old sheets. The old, what do we call the old sheets? It's now called Sheets. What was it called? Spreadsheet?
Sheets. No, it was Google Sheets and Google Sheets.
Oh, okay. I don't know how I could confuse those two, but they only just fixed this one. Like before, you could view but not edit one on mobile, but now you can edit them. They just
that's one of the things.
That was a huge thing that I could edit a sheet in Drive or Docs, whatever. You know, Google's not good at naming things. God bless them, but geez.
You can't edit it on a mobile device?
You can.
You can't use the new sheets on a mobile device.
Dan's saying one thing, you're saying another thing.
No, they just the legacy Google Docs spreadsheet app, or part of the Google Docs that was spreadsheets. They only recently allowed, because I remember I used to not be able to edit a spreadsheet, and I use them all the time.
I don't know about that.
You could view it, but you couldn't edit it.
I'm 99.9999% sure that you could, because I did.
Maybe on my phone.
Months ago.
Maybe on my platform. No, I'm talking like a year or two ago.
It rolled out a few months ago, if not a year ago at this point. But there was a time that you could only view and not edit.
So are you saying this is regression as opposed to progression of the new sheets at this point? Because it's not...
In some ways, it is very definitely regression. And I'm increasingly getting the feeling that the way Google engineers products is they don't actually have a list of features for any product. So what they do is they get a product to the point where they think it's finished, and they release it, and then they wait for the complaints to come in to find out which features they forgot to implement. We saw this as a prime example with Maps, for example. You know, they released it, started forcing people to use it, and then kind of reacted when people said, hey, you omitted the following 20 features. Oh, no, they're coming. Don't worry.
No. Google does that with everything. What are you talking about? That is their commercialization process. Throw the shit out there and then let the users figure out what's not working or what we need.
They've always done that to some level, but I think they've taken it to a new degree with Maps and the new Sheets. I mean, we've never had a point where Gmail, for example, suddenly stopped doing something that it used to do.
Well, one of the features that it has that I really use a lot is being able to save stuff and use it offline. That was one of the main features they implemented that was requested by everybody, because I download everything I possibly can on my Chromebook, so I can just take my Chromebook out anywhere I go when I don't even have an internet connection and work on my letters and my forms and my spreadsheets. So that's a real major feature, is to be able to use it offline.
And I believe the new one, that's in the new one, correct?
Yeah, it just came out. They just announced it on the new one that the main ability that people most requested is offline use of the Google Sheets.
And don't get me wrong, I think the new Sheets, they're bringing good stuff to the platform. I'm really looking forward to the new Sheets. I'm just shocked and on some level kind of insulted that they're pushing this product that's half-baked, that takes away features that they previously supported.
It's like saying we have a brand new Hangouts, but you can't broadcast anymore, but it's got a beautiful new UI. It's frustrating. But why couldn't they just add the new stuff to the old one? Why do they have to come out with a whole new thing?
Well, it's very possible that the old one was just so kludged up at this point that it needed a rewrite.
Is it
and
something
I'm not
they
saying
bought?
that it didn't need a rewrite.
Is Google Docs something they bought or they did in-house?
They bought it.
Okay, well, that could explain it because that happened in the print business. Adobe bought Aldus PageMaker, and it was so kludgy that they ended up, they looked at the code and they said, it's poorly documented, it's screwed up, that everything's bad, we can't improve it, we can't fix it, so they created InDesign from scratch to replace PageMaker. So it was kind of a similar situation.
So here's a question I have, Alan.
In the end, InDesign was far superior. Go ahead, Kudes.
Question I have on the Google Sheets. I'm assuming it's not available. How do you start Google Sheets? How do you get it working?
Okay, to get the new Google Sheets, you need to go into Settings and say that you want to use the new Google Sheets instead of the old Google Sheets.
Is that setting a drive setting, or you need to be on a sheet?
It is a drive setting.
Okay, so from what I'm realizing is that it's not available for Google Apps users.
No, it's not. And well,
maybe because it's kludgy.
It depends, as I understand it, it depends on which apps channel you're part of. So if your apps are set to be the I forget what they call it, the preview channel, which is something your admin can choose. So if you're on the preview channel, you get it at the same time as non-apps users. So you should have that available to you now. If you are on what they call the standard release channel, I believe, usually it takes them, they basically let it brew for 2 weeks, so for a few weeks at least, so that your admin has time to learn more about the new features, get up to speed, train people on it, so that you're not thrown into this new feature without being aware of it. But it depends on which of the channels you're on.
Almost every company I've dealt with that has a free tier and then a paid tier, always the free one gets the stuff first because of that reason. You don't want to freak the IT guys out with your paying customers. You want to make sure it's rock solid, or at least more solid than when you roll it out to the, because you could affect 100 users and have mayhem in a company if something isn't working right. Is there a timetable when the old spreadsheet program is no longer used? And if you want to try, if you have the ability to upgrade, quote unquote, if you hate it, do you have the ability to go back at this point, or is
Yes.
it like a do or die?
Here's how it works. Right now, if you set it so that you want to use a new sheet, all new sheets that you create will be using the new system. If for whatever reason you want to switch back, you can change that setting, and all new sheets will be using the old version. However, any sheets that have already been created in one version or the other will still be in that version. So all that setting toggles is what creating a sheet will do. It won't change any of your existing sheets. So even if you switch it to use the new one, all of your old sheets will still use the old version. They've said that once this is ready to go live, there will be a conversion tool, but there is no conversion tool yet.
So are you optimistic that in the end this is worth it and this will be good?
Yes, I am.
So a year from now we'll all be happy, but there'll be pulling of hair and gnashing of teeth in the meantime.
Yes, and I'm mostly I'll be honest. My perspective is, as a developer, I want an API that works with the new sheets. I've got specific applications that will be awesome using new sheet features, but I need an API for it. And Google has been very good to their developers in the past. I'd like to see them continue to be good to their developers. So it really frustrates me that this is apparently a low priority item. At least that's how it's being treated almost.
I could tell you I love Docs or Drive apps. It's a weird name, Drive, because I'm not sure how to refer to specifically to the cloud document and spreadsheet editing tools in Drive.
Well, here's what it is. Drive is the overall system. Drive includes the ability to edit docs. It includes the ability to edit sheets. It includes the ability to edit presentations and forms. All of those come from Google. It also includes the ability to edit just about any file type as long as you have a Drive application. So, for example, I can edit graphics files that are on Drive using Pixlr Editor or using PicMonkey directly through Drive. I can edit movies that I have on Drive directly through a movies editor that I can get through Drive. So Drive is in some ways an application platform. And finally, the other thing it's also a Dropbox replacement. So you can sync files locally up into the cloud and yada, yada, yada.
And it's super powerful. I imagine you're using it with Jason right now. You're writing a book with Jason who's in Guam. You're in New York. Are you doing it in Drive?
We are doing it in Drive using Google Docs.
You're not mailing printouts to each other and redlining.
No, we're not mailing and redlining. We're sending thumb drives back and forth via, no.
But yeah, it's a super powerful tool, because like most of us are home-based, and like my billing person's in one place, my graphic designer's in another place, and we have a control sheet for the newspaper, which is just a Google spreadsheet. We talk about what ads are going in and, what size they are and whether that's how they know when they have to make an ad, all that stuff. It's a incredible revolutionary thing that they created. It's really good. As much as we might be hammering them on this maybe not ready for prime time upgrade, but it's an incredible tool and it's free.
Well, and here's the amazing part. It's not only an incredible tool, it's a much better tool than most people give it credit for. Most people just think of it in terms of, it's a Dropbox clone. It works just like Dropbox. No, it's a lot more than Dropbox.
Way more than Dropbox.
Or people think that it's, let me edit, docs and sheets, which are just like Word and Excel. No, it's a lot more than that. What do you got for us, Anthony?
John says a conversion tool defeats the very core of why we use Google Docs and Drive.
Not quite sure what he means by that. Conversion tool for...
Sheets to sheets.
Sheets to sheets. We don't know how the conversion tool is going to work. For all we know, it means that they're going to automatically convert all of the old sheets to the new sheets. Just that they haven't done so yet.
They do really well with these upgrades on things like Chrome and Google+, where there's no, you download the new version of Chrome. It just sort of happens. You're not even aware of it. And then all of a sudden, a cloud-based service at its best, you should just notice, there's a new button here or a new feature, or Alan's picture is circle now instead of square, or whatever. It just kind of rolls out periodically. You're not even aware of when it's happening. But in this case, they're handling it differently.
Well, they're not. The reason why they're handling it differently is one of the things they also tend to avoid in this rolling out new in just deploying a new version, is the issue of being on multiple versions. And that means, in general, they don't have a lot of people trying out the new versions as you upgrade. So for Chrome, for example, we do have this concept of different channels. We've got the production Chrome, we've got a beta Chrome, a dev channel Chrome, and the canary Chrome. And you can move between them, but you need to know what you're doing. This is the same sort of thing. we can see the new sheets as kind of a beta sheets, and you can move between the two, but you need to know what you're doing. Usually for things like Plus, they just give you the new version, and you either take it or you leave it.
A couple comments here. John says Quark was easier to use. Quark Express was, I think, the Mac thing that everybody used, and there are whole arguments about this. Quark being a program to design print publications, like Time Magazine was probably done on Quark Express, and then InDesign came out, and it just had features. They were more aggressive in updating things than Quark Express, and now you're seeing a lot of people switch. But your legacy publications, like the newspaper where we have our newspaper printed, still uses Quark Express. And this gets to the other point about why they're reluctant to screw with the apps users and give them the new features as fast, is because if you went to a whole team of people using Quark and suddenly switched them to InDesign, you'd have a tremendous learning curve, a immediate drop in productivity. People who had been using it works 30 years. Why do I have to? Damn it! All that stuff, and they're reluctant to do that, and that's the price you pay for the apps thing. And then Bruce says, try the new Google Sheets. Learn more warnings. Some features aren't ready yet. Protected sheets and ranges, notification rules, spell check, API support. And Bruce says you can uncheck the box to use them. John, do me a favor. If you could elaborate on what you're saying there. We're not really exactly sure, but it looks like you're on to a good point. But we're not, if you could clarify a little bit. And then Thomas Milne said, is that the one Anthony read? Or is that... He said, schools in my area have adapted Google Drive for all kids. They have their own accounts made just for them. It's semi-limited accounts. It's powerful because, I mean, you could give the parents read-only access, for example. You could, the teacher can check in on things. When
Google Drive has really taken off in the education environment. It is amazing to see what's going on there and just how incredible how some school districts are using it.
And this new lower cost thing that they've, I mean, cloud storage in general has been a race to the bottom as far as cost, right? I mean, Amazon and Google and neck and neck trying to lower the cost.
Than that,
but I don't think it can be understated. I don't think it can be overstated the impact of almost commodity level pricing now, where it's competing against physical drive storage, not on speed, but on cost.
Well,
it's
the way the schools and the enterprise versions work though is different, because there you're also paying per account. But you're actually paying a fairly low amount per account, and I believe the educational pricing is bordering on free.
Yeah,
I could be wrong on that
let's
point,
face it, if they teach your kid, if your son learns Drive in school, and he becomes familiar with that, then what's he going to adopt when he goes to college or when he gets on his own, he wants some cloud storage thing. Why learn a new thing? He's used to it. That was what Apple's biggest success stories is they were a huge hit in education. And if you learn Quark Express on a Mac and you're used to the Mac environment, you're going to stick with it. If you're used to Android, you're going to stick with that. Windows, same thing.
We have this comment from John again. Add-ons is not new. Well, yes and no. Yes, we did have AppScript for a long time before, but it was not necessarily easy to use. What they rolled out, again, it was either last week or the week before, really makes add-ons almost a first-class citizen in the Google Apps environment. So it's at the point where now you go to the Chrome store and you say, install this add-on, and you'll be able to use that add-on for a document. And you don't have to know how to install it. You don't have to worry about versions changing on you. Really, the new add-ons are just worlds better than what we used to use with apps. And this comes from somebody who did some really, really funky things with Google Apps Script. I love Google Apps Script. The new add-ons are just worlds better, such to the point they're almost not even in the same league.
And then I just wanted to throw out there for you real quick, Alan, when you were talking about the different things, it took me a little bit to dig and find it. It's actually rapid release versus scheduled release. So
Thank
if you're going through your apps profile, you want to go to the company profile and then just click on profile right after that, and then it's on the big list on the side, and that's one of the things: rapid release versus scheduled release. So.
And thank you, John, for also confirming Google Apps for Education is free for EDUs and gives each user 30 gig per account, and that's nothing to sneeze at for schools.
And Bruce says his IT department is looking seriously at Chromebox and the coming VMware solution sometime around September. Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, I remember we'd mail letters and stuff, and now you can have someone. This was actually a much more interesting topic to me than I expected it would be, and it just gets to the cloud thing is so awesome. It's so wonderful that you can be anywhere.
There are downsides to the cloud. Let's keep that in mind, and we'll be talking about one of those downsides later.
Okay, that's a good segue to our next topic, I think.
It's not the next. I don't think it's the next topic, but it's a later
Encryption?
topic. No, it's not the next topic. It's later.
Okay.
Although I could drag that one in.
Security is an issue.
Security is an issue, and that's what it's tied into. But it's we'll talk about it later.
All right. So the next thing is Gmail encryption is now mandatory. So I was asking before we went live. I was speaking to Oleg about SSL, and I know it's security socket layer or secure socket, whatever. I really don't understand how secure it is. Is it secure so that your neighbor can't peer in, or is it secure so a hacker can't get you, or is it secure so Edward Snowden's former colleagues can't see it? And what is the impact? Can you explain exactly what the change is, and then kind of explain what SSL is for us?
Can I do that in the other order?
Whatever you want. I mean, it's your mercy, and I'll believe you because you seem like you know what you're talking about.
So SSL is it's basically using what's known as it's using a number of encryption technologies, and I don't want to go into all the details of all of them. But one of the fundamental concepts of any encryption technology is how large the key is. Larger keys, in general, mean that it takes longer to break a code. There is no. Let me rephrase that. Most encryption technology that we conventionally use, and by we I mean both consumers and the government, is built under the assumption that encryption is breakable. If you try hard enough, you will be able to break the encryption. The larger the key is, in general, means, however, that more effort would be needed to break the encryption than the value of what you're encrypting.
Can I ask a question at this point on this specific issue? When you say that it's a larger key, does that mean that if you have a 1 megabyte package of data you're trying to send, and you're using SSL or whatever encryption to use it, if it's a larger key, does that mean that there's a larger packet in the beginning that defines?
No.
Or that the whole thing is going to be much, much bigger?
No, neither of those really. Let me put it to let me kind of give you the very quick lesson in encryption. When you were a kid, Dan, did you ever write secret messages to your friends and you would say, okay, when you get this message, replace every letter A with a B, every letter B with a C, C with a D, and so on? Did you do that when you were a kid?
Not that particular thing, but we play with Pig Latin, which is similar, I guess.
It's a little different, and the reason why it's different is what I just described is a cipher known as a substitution or a Caesar cipher, and it supposedly dates back to Julius Caesar, who had the same thing. Now that what we call that offset of one character, A to B, B to C, and so forth, that's a key. So if you and I have agreed that we're going to move letters, offset letters by 1, we now have a key of 1. And if we didn't tell that to Cadeus, he would look at this, he would look at our encrypted messages and say, that's gibberish. gibberish.
GIF or GIF?
However, since he's a smart cookie, he might try it out and say, okay, if I replace B with A and C with B, he might figure it out. So using the number 1 is a very, very small and very, very weak key. More advanced crypto systems essentially do the exact same thing. There's a substitution of one thing for another thing. The trick is, okay, so now let's say that you and I want to set up something slightly more advanced. So we're going to say, okay, the first letter we're going to offset by 1 character. The second letter we're going to offset by 3 characters. And then we're going to go back to 1 character and then 3 characters again, and we'll alternate like that. So Cadeus will get this, and it might take him a little bit longer to figure that trick out. So eventually, you and I will build up something that's a very, very long key. So we'll say, okay, the first one will offset by 1, the second one by 3, the third one by 9, the fourth one by 15. And we'll create 5 numbers, 10 numbers, 100 numbers, 1,000 numbers. Okay? So the more of these kinds of switches, the more of these kinds of offsets, the longer it's going to take Cadeus to figure out what our pattern is. But if he eventually figures out the pattern, he'll get the whole message.
But how does each side know?
There's Sai actually answers that question. He provides a nice reference link called the Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange. I'm not going to cover it here because it's some very brilliant mathematics that will put you to sleep. But it boils down to when the socket is first set up, they have a temporary short-lived key that is used to exchange a much longer-term key. And this key exchange repeats itself various times during our message exchange in the hopes that nobody is going to be able to get enough of a message to be able to figure out these very, very long keys.
That was my question. That's what I was getting at. I didn't say it right. My question was, do they just sort of establish what the encryption would be, and then they send the data that's encrypted, like an R becomes an L?
You can essentially assume that, yes.
So it's not like each character is gigantic now because it's one character, 75 characters. That was what I was trying to get at. Like, does a megabyte become a gigabyte, or is there just like a big thing at the beginning and then it's small, and then periodically there might be another big thing, is what you're saying?
It's the simple answer is there's an exchange of the key ahead of time, or really on some level we know what each side is going to use for a key ahead of time. And then each character is roughly represented by roughly the same size. That's not entirely true, but on the simple level, yeah, that's what happens.
So,
and at some point during our conversation, we might say, okay, let's exchange keys again, because we don't trust our old keys. They may be broken. So
this will prevent the neighbor. This will prevent the nosy neighbor.
So to answer your other question, this will absolutely prevent the nosy neighbor from nosing in. It will, under any circumstances. It will prevent a hacker pretty much from any circumstance unless they really, really, really want your information. It might take a hacker many years to break a message that you and I have exchanged. And now the real question is, how long will it take the NSA?
Which is the impetus for this, right? Let's talk about it in context.
And that's the good question. There are people that have speculated that with good enough hardware, good enough specialty hardware, and a real dedication to breaking a message, the NSA could probably break many of the things that we talk about via SSL in something ranging from months to a year. So, here's the question. Do you really think they're going to spend time trying to break your email if it's going to take them a month to a year to do so? And that's really what this boils down to. It's encryption on some level can eventually be broken. The question is, how much effort is it going to take to break it?
So if your email contains like the secret whereabouts of Bin Laden a few years ago, it's
was
worth
gonna
the
say,
effort. But
Go ahead.
if it's, you know, you cheated 3,000 on your taxes, you're probably good.
Well, it's more like if they think that your email contains the imminent strike plan for how they're going to attack the U.S., how you're going to attack the U.S., chances are good it's still going to be safe in your email because they're not going to break it in time. If, however, they wanted to collect this email as evidence for you 2 years down the road that you were the one who did it, then maybe you're a little bit at risk. And I only say a little bit at risk because we really don't know exactly how much effort, what it will take the NSA to do. And like I said, these are estimates only. So there's kind of the long answer.
What's the practical impact of this decision? Is this PR or is this real?
We didn't even talk about what the story is. So this story is basically, Google has now said that all of their internal communications for Gmail, so if I am sending you a Gmail message, it will be encrypted from the moment it leaves my inbox to my system. From me typing it in on my computer, goes to Google's server. One Google server may hand it off to another Google server. Google has a lot of servers exchanging email. Lands in your inbox and gets sent down to your computer. All of those transactions are encrypted. The question, though, is the message itself stored on Google servers encrypted? And we know the answer is no.
This would not be practical. This is practical for an email, for example, or an exchange of data that's not, like it wouldn't be practical to try to have a video conference using SSL, right? Because the latency would be so bad.
It may be. We might be getting to the point where video connections are encrypted. I don't actually know. I haven't been able to get a straight answer on that.
Well, I guess in the situation room, I'm sure, right? So there must be a way to do it.
For example, here's the thing we do know, though. We do know that doctors, for example, are concerned with making sure video connections are encrypted because they've got HIPAA rules they need to deal with. Does anyone else want to speak on this? I didn't mean to monopolize this entire conversation.
I don't have really much to say on this topic, sorry. It's good that they're encrypting, at least they're doing something, but, I mean, like you said, are they really going to protect us from the NSA? Probably not. So,
well, we know fundamentally that if if the federal government wants access to something that's on one of Google's servers, they can get it.
And I don't think you monopolized any. I'm sorry,
right?
Dan,
So
go
I
ahead.
mean, I'm glad that they're blocking out everybody else, I guess.
Who cares? I don't care if the NSA wants to read my emails. I don't. It's I don't do illegal activity in my emails, so I don't care.
I don't do any.
So why is it a big deal?
I don't do any illegal activity in my emails.
If you really want to see that my package shipped from Amazon, that's great. I don't care. Fuck. It's crazy that people are like all freaked out about it. What are you doing in email?
There was a great book published by Dan Brown in 1998 called Digital Fortress. And
by the way, that was a really bad book.
Well, it's really good if you read it now, though.
No, I read it. It's a really bad book.
I enjoyed it. And I'm a layman. See, you're a dev head. I'm a layman, and I thought it was pretty interesting. The idea that we surround ourselves trying to come up with this encryption to where we're protecting ourselves from our government, from other businesses, where the whole joke is that the government knows what this encryption is, and their whole goal is to get everybody to encrypt everything so they have this false sense of security. So even if Gmail is encrypting everything, do you still feel safe? I don't.
Well, but here's the thing, and that's why Dan Brown got it wrong, is that no, it is secure against them. The reason why it's not secure sitting on Google's servers is that we know Google has access to the plain text version, and we know that if given a court order, they have to hand it over. So all that this means is that the NSA can't, the NSA has to work extremely hard to get it while it's in transit. But they don't need to get
Alan,
it while it's in
but to your
transit.
point though, even if it was stored on Google servers in an encrypted format, if a court requested for that information, wouldn't they request for the information in the cipher so that they could figure out exactly what it was? They're not gonna put a subpoena for encrypted data. They're gonna need the unencrypted data anyway to come into the court. So is Google gonna be unencrypting it, or how does that all work?
Well, Google has to unencrypt it because they store it unencrypted, fundamentally.
But even if it was stored encrypted and the government asked for it, they would have to unencrypt it and give it to them. So
Well, and we know that Google has the keys to it because Google gives it to us.
right.
We know that Google has the keys to it because they use it. They do spam filtering on it and they do ad analysis on it, and they have to have access to it.
And again, who cares?
The reason why people care about this, and I'll be honest, the reason why I care about this on some level is because we've seen the federal government abuse these powers in the past.
You know what? I don't care if they broadcast it on Times Square. I really don't. It doesn't matter.
Well, Pam, you're unique. You probably get a kick
I
out
do TMI
of it.
Tuesday. I talk about, my poop schedule. I don't think that, seriously, that my new Pinterest links for the week are that big of a deal.
But Pam, you don't advertise who you have circled. You've got some information that you keep private. I assume your text messages.
Them, not me.
The bottom line, look, the bottom line is if you're doing illegal activity, then if you're doing it through email, you're an idiot. If you're just doing if you're doing something embarrassing,
you do it with a throwaway phone. Haven't you seen any of these cop shows?
I mean, let's say, yeah, but let's say you're looking for Viagra or hemorrhoid medication or something embarrassing. You're in the closet and you're emailing someone or whatever. Those things wouldn't be. The government's not interested in that stuff anyway. They're interested in if you're going to blow up the Boston Marathon or if you know where Bin Laden is. Or was.
Or if you're going to try to climb to the top of the World Trade Center.
Well, there's that.
All right, so Kevin says, Pam, the problem with the government looking at your emails is the danger of freedom of association. If you communicate innocuously with a person who then does something dangerous, the government can erroneously assume you might have relevant information and hold you in a jail cell till they feel like getting at the truth.
Excellent point by Kevin. Excellent.
Another point that my only concern with all this, because I assume the government is doing this anyway, and I'm sure they're doing more than we even know, even post-Snowden era. But my only concern is that the next Snowden isn't going to leak the methods. The next Snowden is going to leak the actual data. And then we'll know Pam's poop schedule.
Well, let me tell you that...
And that will be a visual I will not be able to unsee.
I don't know. I just think that's if.
But seriously, I mean, if all these other companies are getting hacked and they can't control an Edward Snowden, there's obviously a risk that the next guy could leak all this data and all these personal things that they're just
there's
storing
no
and
way
not
that
using.
there's no way that I'm ever going to get a secret security clearance or even a classified security clearance or whatever the first level is.
I'm surprised you could even fly an airplane.
Let me ask you a question, Pam. Let me ask you a question. Do you give out your browser history?
I would. It doesn't. I wouldn't mind. It doesn't bother me at all.
You wouldn't mind having your browser history, so you never accidentally stumble upon in your pursuit of the images you are so well known for. You do not accidentally stumble upon possibly illegal sites?
No, I haven't yet. No, but I guess it's always a possibility.
But Alan, your ISP already has all that information.
Yeah, Verizon already has it.
But these are the concerns.
Well, I mean, for example, let's say you're into porn and you're looking at a Tumblr site. If you spend an hour looking at various Tumblrs,
I go straight to just Pornhub. I don't even.
Okay, but there's bound to it. Here's
5 seconds.
what Alan is alluding to, I think, is there's bound to come a time when there will be some underage person in one of those images, and that stored in your cache file, and then what if there's a raid or whatever, or they find it, and then technically you have illegal images on your hard drive, right? Even though you were at a commonly viewed site, or it could be some other type of illegal thing. You know what I mean? That's the concern.
Right. In which case, I absolutely want my entire search history available for them to peruse at their leisure. I mean, I really don't.
But Pam, what Dan is saying
No,
is
I know what Dan is saying,
to
but
isolate the nefarious activity, and that's how they're going to regard that.
yeah, but they're also going to have to look at the whole thing. I mean, it's not. We don't live.
And that's what Dan's saying.
Bullshit. Okay, bullshit. I've
This is
been
gonna be
arrested
great.
before, you know. Look, I'm not fearing. I don't fear the government. I don't fear being, arrested erroneously. I don't fear any of that stuff. And the
And yet
people
lots of
who
people
live
do it are.
well, the people that live in fear of that, are probably similar to the people who fear going outside because something bad might happen.
That or
But
they're
if you're going to live your
They
life,
might be forward-thinking.
if you live your life in fear and you're not someone who's doing something illegal, then there are plenty of psychologists available for you.
Yeah.
I was going to say something like that too. Don't live in fear. You're going to be in
I
fear
could
of
walk out and get
everything.
by a bus tomorrow, and you know what? There's a pretty good chance that I will die in a car accident. But that doesn't stop me from driving to work every day.
Pam, has your husband ever visited New York?
Has my husband ever visited New York?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but he did go to South Africa during apartheid. That was interesting.
Yeah, okay.
He's had a gun pointed at his head because he kissed his girlfriend who was white in South Africa.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There are a lot of people that are justifiably afraid of governmental action, and yet they live their life anyway. They'd just rather do it without having to live their life afraid. And if they thought that they could do this by email, they're probably still doing it by email. But they've got legitimate concerns about how secure that email is. And I think they're doing exactly what you did say, and that's living their life despite that.
Yeah.
But they'd rather not have to deal with that fear.
I think the chances of the government singling out my email for scrutiny is slim to none. And that's the
Yours
truth.
are pretty low, at least right now, but non-zero.
Look, the
I'm
bottom
not saying
line
they're
is,
zero.
if they went after Pam, they would have to reveal how they got what information they had and whether it was legally obtained, right? They're not going to do it because you looked at a porn site or you hedged in
Really?
$50 in your
Sure about
tax
that,
site.
Dan?
I'm not talking about hardcore stuff.
Denied immigration. There have been people there are U.S. citizens that have been denied access to the U.S. because they visited porn sites.
I don't know how they discovered it. The main
You don't know
thing
how
is,
they discovered it? It's very simple.
Go ahead.
They took their laptop at the border crossing and looked at their browser history.
But that's not analogous to this conversation. We're talking about post 9/11, CIA stuff.
Right. So we're saying
was
that a
put in
You're
place.
saying the CDP was doing that pre-9/11, Dan? I don't think so.
No, I'm saying what they're doing is they're using this technology and the information they get from it to send drones over Pakistan.
The problem
and
also,
blow
though,
up
is
people
they're
without a
using the
trial,
technology.
right? It's serious stuff that they use it for. We got to move soon because Cadeas is going to pee himself. Any final thoughts on this topic? So I was right on this one.
Let's move on, guys.
I'm 1-8. Okay, so next up is this young man named Peter McDermott, and he said he had a couple martinis. So I said, "You must join the show," because he's And I hope he and Pam get into it because that's really epic. So anyway, we've discussed a number of times about smartwatches, and I have been we've discussed glass, and my 30-second explanation is that I don't think glass is that attractive. I think it's too like Star Trekky, and people, it's weird. But it's totally cool at the same time. I just wish it were more subdued. If it were like a little thing or something, I'd be cool with it. But I wouldn't want to personally go into a grocery store or Walmart or Costco wearing glass. I think I look like it would draw too much attention to myself. And I'm a shy person in public, believe it or not. So the second thing is the watches. They all look boxy, and they're not stylish in any way. They look gaudy. So then I've been advocating for the companies that actually make nice-looking watches to make a smartwatch, and then Motorola came out with this thing. Not the watch company, but the new thing came out, Google Wear, where they're going to create an API similar like Android, and any manufacturer can use it. And then but this Motorola 360, the Moto 360 is gorgeous. Thus far, what we've seen, it's round, it's not boxy. And my first observation to Alan to set up Peter's post, which he's about to talk about, my first thing I said to Alan was, they will sell 50,000 of these things for every Google Glass they sell. And Alan said, what?
I don't remember if I said that. Actually, you said 10,000.
Okay.
And I said, you're probably right, but that still doesn't make it a better product. And this is where it's actually related to the Roku and remote conversation.
Okay, so first let's
let's highlight the fact that I said that Dan might be right about something.
Which is rare. I'm noting that the time.
Put that in the show notes, will you?
Absolutely. So Peter G. McDermott, Alan will disagree with you because your last name is McDermott. That's basically a rule in this program. If your name is McDermott, you can walk on water, and Alan will say you can't swim. So anyway, Peter, tell us you wrote a post, and someone else actually saw it and said, "Oh, we have to include this." And then I goaded you.
I believe it was me who said we need to include it on tonight's show.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then I basically PayPal'd you a bunch of money to come on. So Peter.
Next time I need you to use Google Wallet, Dan, not PayPal.
Yeah, please, God, don't get Cadeas started on PayPal. His personal war with Cadeas' view is that's the only thing Elon Musk ever screwed up. So, Peter, tell us, give us the version, describe your blog post. First, tell us where folks can find it if they want to check it out, and then tell us about your post, and then we can, Alan will tell you why you're wrong, and the rest of us will.
No, it's going to be a more nuanced conversation than that.
Okay, that's what we thought about cheats.
Well,
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah. So the other day I wrote a post, why Moto 360 will kill Google Glass, and it's on my blog petergmcdermott.com, and the post kind of talks about some of the reasons that I think as a consumer product that the Moto 360 is going to blow Google Glass out of the water. Now, normally you would say that's an apples to oranges comparison. You can't compare a wristwatch to a heads-up display. Well, okay, you're right. But these two devices are poised to come to the market around the same time, which means Americans have a limited attention span of what they're going to be really focusing on. And I think we're just amazed at the design quality and the possibilities that are coming from the Moto 360 because it takes everything that we think we know about smartwatches and kind of turns it on its face, no pun intended, but it turns the smartwatch from this big, boxy, obscene thing that just looks ridiculous on your wrist to a stylish timepiece. And I think it's...
To this big, round, obscene thing.
I'm sorry?
Keep going, Peter. That's fine.
No. So anyway, what I did is I just tore down, a few disadvantages about glass. If it were to come to market as it is, as Alan and I both experience it now, versus the Moto 360 as it's poised to come to market based on what they've told us. And there's a lot of speculation in the article because I don't have my hands on the Moto 360 and the version of glass I have is still a prototype. So That's what I wrote about, Dan.
So, first question, since Dan vanished.
Ah, you did.
Why do you think that these are going to come out at about the same time? Because we don't even have anything relating close to a release date for Glass.
Well, so Google initially stated that Glass would be coming out in spring of 2014, and we know
December 2013 was the original.
December 13. No, you're right, and that was pushed back to spring of 14. Here we are now, in the second day of spring in 2014, and clearly Glass is not coming out soon. In fact, Google Glass, just to maintain the hype, just yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, released the 10 most common myths about Google Glass. It was a very well regarded post that they shared on Google+. I thought it was kind of funny that it was shared there instead of on Blogspot, but that's a whole nother story on Google fanboyism. But I'm expecting these both to come to market around the same time because Glass has already been delayed once. We know it's on its second delay, and if it's not here by the end of the summer, the interest is just falling. I think it's just falling as a product, and people are wondering, well, if this is so great, if this is something that's going to be part of our daily lives, why can't I get it? And then you enter the speculation of, well, I can't get it because it's a piece of crap and it's still a prototype and it's just not going to fit into my life, and that's why it's not to the market yet.
Well, I'm predicting more first quarter next year is what I'm predicting at the rate that I'm seeing things move forward. So that's why I was kind of lost that you think it was coming by the summer because I didn't get that. But the only other question that I have on this for now is they're doing two different things. The watch is mainly just Google Now. You can't do half of the features that you can do in Glass with the watch. There's so many other things, so I don't know why you would even put those in the same category. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. You said half of the things.
Well, okay, I shouldn't say half. Google Now.
Let me stop you there. Hang on. Right now, what we see with the current announcement of Android Wear is essentially what we saw a year ago with Google Glass. And what they are promising at some future but unannounced date is the Android Wear SDK, which is a little more analogous to what Google Glass released last November. So are we going to be saying, okay, so if we see that in November, does this mean that Wear is following a year behind what Glass is doing? Because the differences between the two are actually fairly slim, to the point where some of the documentation reads exactly the same.
No, and there's a big analogy between Android Wear and Glassware, and I pointed that out in the post. But the thing about Android Wear is you're talking about a multi-device platform. You're talking about something you're going to be developing for, inherently is going to work on more than one device. Now, you may have to make specific changes for resolution, for different input devices or different sensors in those different pieces of hardware. But right now, if you're developing for Glassware, you're developing for one device. And as a developer, I would think that you would want to develop a program that would have more exposure to more devices for more manufacturers. Am I wrong, Alan?
Yes and no. One of the things that I think you're not taking into account there is the fact that one of those devices may be Glass. We know, for example...
That's very true, and we have not yet seen XE14.
Right. We haven't seen the next release of Glass. We've been told that some future release of Glass will bring it up to KitKat, and that with it, that may come Android Wear support. Now, we don't know that it's going to. We don't know that if it does. We don't know when. There's a lot of things that are unknown, and there are a lot of things that are unknown about Android Wear too. You make some interesting statements, though. You make a number of comments in there, which I, on some level, agree with.
Put that in the show notes, somebody. Okay.
Okay, look, question.
Peter and I agree on a lot of things.
No, we will.
Is Google Glass going to be open, or is it going to be a proprietary product? And it's important to note that...
It's already open.
I mean, can anyone make Glass? Can anyone get that?
Okay, so you're asking, is the hardware open?
Can Motorola and Samsung and Microsoft, if they so chose, create Google Glass? No. Will that be the case? or is
No,
because
Dan,
the
you
Wear.
just made an
Dan,
apple.
Dan, we're talking apples and oranges. At least we're in the produce section.
No,
You're over in
no,
potato
no,
chips
no.
right
Listen,
now.
listen. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is that the difference between Google Wear or Android Wear, which is along the lines of Android, where anybody can manufacture it. That makes it a mass market product. That means you're going to see $39 ones at Walmart, and you're going to see fancy ones. And then with glass, is it a proprietary product?
Well, here, no.
Built on top of
Dan,
Android.
What Alan's saying is Android Wear and glassware is so analogous that you'd be an idiot not to think that the two things eventually are going to combine into one. There's no reason to have two different development platforms for two devices that are just so freaking similar.
But it's
and
two
here's the
completely
thing, even
different
if not-
teams.
You have
Even if-
hands-free versus semi-hands-free. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
they're
kind of where you
going to
are.
start
So,
getting to the questions.
right. So if you find yourself in an industry where you need to be totally hands-free, then glass is going to benefit you. If you're okay with semi,
No, there's
glass isn't going to
how
be
many things can you do with glass without actually touching glass?
many.
A lot.
It's all voice control. What are you talking about?
A lot, Peter.
A lot. But as a percentage of what you can do.
95%?
Yeah, about 97, 98%.
Okay, so how many apps can you stop hands-free?
I don't understand your question.
If I'm using an app, how many of those apps can I stop without touching the device?
Okay, so that's the 5%.
No, that's every app. There's not a single app that you can stop without
Yeah,
touching
but-
the device.
but
My
Peter-
point is
No, but my
that there's a
point...
big setback there. No, go ahead.
No. You're making a valid point. However, for a number of those apps, it doesn't matter if I send it or not.
Okay, but all I'm trying to say is you're talking about using something that's hands-free, that 95% of what you do with it is hands-free, but there's still that 5%.
Well,
That's
that's
very
a
important to
valid
note.
That's true.
It's a valid point. However, and here's the catch, is that the ability to add the hands-free to the interruption is doable in at least two different ways.
Whether it's a nod or a voice command. So it's
Not a voice command or a wink.
Yeah, so it goes back to development. I mean, that's still something that can be repaired.
But and that's part of why glass is still in its, as they say, in its early development days. It's a much more advanced device than a watch.
No, I'm not arguing with that. I'm not arguing with that at all.
No. One of the things I actually did like about your argument is that nowhere in there did you actually say that the Moto 360 was better.
No, not at all. And I'm
But
not
you
saying
did.
it is. I'm just saying in terms of consumer focus, consumer drive, and how these things are going to fly off the shelf. If the Moto 360 and glass were to go on shelf within the same quarter, it's obvious in the argument. 10,000 to 1 might be a little bit of an odd ratio, but I think it'd be silly not to think that the Moto 360 would.
I think the 360 would go out a lot faster. I do agree with that. I will agree with that until glassware comes out that separates itself from things that you can't do on the 360, whether it's due to the way it's built or just
But here's the thing: you're forgetting about the cost prohibition, and the fact that
No,
this
Peter, I got to interrupt you on that one right off the bat. Because right now, I mean, that's an apples to oranges comparison. We don't know what glass's price is going to be when it hits the consumer.
or either one of them. We don't know what the prices are on either one of them. They could come out.
Speculation, but the speculation that's most commonly accepted is everybody's expecting glass to be in the ballpark of 800 and 360 to be in the ballpark of 300 to 500.
I would never say it.
That's what I'm hearing from everybody.
Okay, and I got to remember, when we first had this conversation about glass, everyone was laughing at me because I was the one who was saying that glass would be 500, and everyone was saying, no, that's way too high.
Somewhere between 3 and 6 is where my range is.
But how much is an iPhone? How much is an unlocked iPhone right now? What are we talking? $649?
Yeah, 650. So somewhere between 3 and 6.
And I think people forget that perspective though, because they're so used to this old traditional AT&T and Verizon tiered cell phone plan, where the cost of the device is subsidized, so the consumer
even that's
not really
going away now,
exposed to the
too,
raw
so.
cost. So that's going to be a rude awakening. But I think inserting the SIM cards into these devices opens up a new world for subsidized pricing.
Right. Well, subsidized pricing is done. I mean, with T-Mobile and everybody murdering all that stuff, that stuff's gone by the wayside.
It's not though.
Whoa, hang on a second. Hang on, Peter, you just made a tremendous leap. You just talked about a SIM card in the Moto 360.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no evidence for that, and in fact, there is contra-evidence to that.
No. I'm talking a year or two. I'm talking about consumer perception of these devices and their cost.
No,
I'm not talking, not referencing the article. I'm saying forward-looking in the next year or two.
But here's the thing: the Android Wear presumes there will be no SIM card in the Wear device.
Right.
At its current juncture.
No, it presumes there will be no SIM card in the device. If you want a SIM card in the device, you run Android.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Okay.
Okay, and if you look at it from that angle, there is a better chance that Glass will get a SIM card
because it runs on pure Android.
A watch will get a SIM card.
I understand. Okay.
So, and I get the point that you're saying, and in fact, I get the point that a lot of people are saying. I will even be one of the first to admit that, yeah, I think the watch will be incredibly popular. But I think we need to I'm going to go back to my Roku argument. Yes, the watch is going to be just like the Roku with the remote. So you're going to be stuck with an older system because it's what you're more familiar with, and you're not going to go with the thing that's 5 or 10 years ahead. And that, in some ways, that's really what it is. Glass is a device that's 5 or 10 years ahead of its time.
I don't think these things are mutually exclusive.
No, they're not.
I mean, you can have a bicycle and a car and an airplane, and there's no sense in saying that, oh, when the airplane was invented, nobody's going to have a bicycle anymore because this is faster and better. There's a price point difference, and they each suit different needs. Go ahead.
The problem, though, is they serve very similar needs, and at the cost for both of them, it is unlikely somebody would get both, and at some of the other technical requirements for definitely the watch, and on some level Glass, there are technical limitations to using two of them at the same time.
Well, one's a Hyundai and one's a Lexus.
I agree with Tim. It's Thomas's comment that Cadeas has up.
Most consumers will only choose one wearable device. I can see that too. That's one of the things I was thinking about this week when the Moto X launched. And like you said, technical limitations also make it so you may have to pick between which one you want.
So this goes back to that remote thing. You know, I've got 4 remotes to operate 4 pieces of equipment just to watch a freaking movie on my TV. Why would I want a watch, some glasses, my phone, a tablet? You know, I am not going to be carrying all that crap around.
And I encourage anybody watching to go read my article on Mashable, is that when these devices start to hit the market, and when Moto 360 hits the market, consumers are going to see, wow, this device does everything I need it to do without me looking like an asshole with a titanium band around my head.
Yep.
Okay, so
it's more
so there's
inobtrusive. It's not taking. Well, I don't know if it takes video and
doesn't even have a camera, Pam.
Whatever, yeah. But you know, some guy's arm isn't going to be like snaking under the bathroom stall. You don't have to worry about is that little light
That's
on?
a thing too.
You know,
I mean, Glass has taken a hit in the PR. I'm going to go to Sheila in just a second. I'm going to get your opinion on this. Glass has taken an unfair hit. They've been banned in restaurants. Some states have said, you know, we're going to ban glass while driving or even having it on your head. The guy arrested in the movie theater, all this stuff, this negative publicity, largely because I think Google's done a bad job at educating the mass public about what glass is, and now they're trying to play catch-up. Sheila, nobody's going to be banned from a movie theater or kicked out of a restaurant because they're wearing a watch. Sheila, I want to get your thoughts on... have you been, I mean, when you look at Google Glass, price point aside, if it was, you know, an impulse price point, is that something you would consider purchasing? And then when you looked at this Moto 360, how do you compare, like, which, if any, of these two things you would find attractive and why?
Well, how big is this watch to start with?
They addressed that in the thing. It is pretty large. It's larger than a woman's typical size watch. It's more like a man's watch. But the guy said there was something about the way they do the band where it won't be an issue, because that was my first thought was, are they going to have 2 versions?
Well, come to think of it, I do need a new watch. My band just broke.
For argument's sake, Sheila, let's
For
assume
argument's sake.
that at some point they, and I'm sure someone will, come out with one that is about the normal size of maybe slightly larger, so you can read it better. A typical you'd see on a woman's, because your wrists are typically smaller, and you don't want something that
But,
extends beyond that.
with this watch, can you take pictures with this watch?
You cannot. It's a notification device. Like
Well,
Google.
no. Hang on. He was asked that in the video too, and he kind of hemmed and hawed about that. So while this initial version probably does not have a camera, there's nothing saying that future versions wouldn't.
I thought in the video he's very specific, and he said there is no. He flat out said there's no camera. Certainly in this version.
Well, if there's no camera on it, well, what's the point of wearing a smartwatch?
Well, it's the Google Now notifications. In the
It's
video.
not that smart then yet, is it?
Well,
I don't
okay.
know. I mean, I don't know. Haven't seen the video, but I guess if it can give me GPS, then that's okay. I could handle that. But it's a really small.
That's an interesting point. I don't remember seeing that in the demonstration.
I mean.
What do you mean, Alan? They showed that there were in the video, the demo. They showed some folks arrive at a beach and they're getting ready to go and swim, and then her.
That's right. Yes, it did.
Her
You're right.
watch lights up and it says, "Wait a minute, there's jellyfish here." There's an alert, a Google Now alert. All the things you get on your phone, the Google Now alerts. When you turn your phone on, and it says drive time to work. And the guy said, checked his flight time. And what was the other interesting thing that they demoed in the video?
Dan, if you don't remember, go watch the Glass video because they demonstrated all the exact same things.
I mean, that's not the argument, though.
No, I know.
No, the argument
There's no
is
doubt. I mean,
no,
look.
as every
down to the jellyfish.
information about my
Here we
go.
Glass
Here we go.
does
You still
everything.
can't give me relevant prompts.
Glass does everything the watch does, and more. There's no doubt there. This is a dumbed down or slimmed down, or not dumbed down, but a smaller feature set of Glass.
Well, if I had the money, I would buy Glass.
Okay.
Let's go to Richard's comment here. Richard makes a really good comment. Gadius?
He says, and like the phones and the tablets, people will eventually have both simply because there are different uses, and I mean that does kind of ring true to everything that I have sitting around this house. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I have a phone, I have a computer, I have a tablet.
How many?
I use all three.
You've got what? 3 Glass Explorers in here?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah.
Okay, so how
3.5.
often do you wear Glass in an average day?
The majority of my day, minus this show and sleeping.
Okay. Alan?
Anytime I'm away from my desk.
Me, anytime I'm not at work and not at home. So not really a lot, which I think proves Richard's point.
Well, but here's the thing. How often would I wear a watch? Probably around the same amount.
Right. Or more close.
I would wear a watch all day because it's acceptable for me to wear a watch while I'm at work. I would wear a watch when I'm sitting at a computer. For me, it doesn't make any sense for me to sit at a computer with a heads-up display. That's really redundant. However, where I have notifications come up in the corner of my screen, that's valuable real estate. If my watch said, hey, you got to leave in 10 minutes to make it to dinner, that's sensible design, because who knows if I'm sitting at my computer or walking to get a beverage out of the fridge when I get that notification. So I think there's room in the market for both. I'm not arguing with that.
Peter, have
That's
you had
how-
negative experiences when you're wearing Glass in public?
Yeah, actually, last night, perfect example. Last night, I went to a chain restaurant, and I went to sit at the bar, and when I sat at the bar, the person sitting next to me said, so let me guess, those are the NSA glasses. And I looked at him jokingly and said, yeah, I'm the guy with the NSA glasses. And he said, can't even expletive have a expletive beer anymore, threw his money on the table, finished his beer, slammed the beer glass down, and walked away. So if you don't think that you're going to have a negative encounter in public, well, there's plenty to be had, trust me.
How old was this guy? How old did he kind of look?
Probably about 30, 35, somewhere in there.
Okay.
See, I don't know. And here's the... I guess it's because I actually understand the technology and technology in general is... Actually, I did have my first negative glass impact on Wednesday night at a glass lecture.
Irony.
A woman who was there from San Francisco came up afterwards and started talking about the privacy concerns that she and her friend has about glass. And I pulled out my cell phone and kept talking to her. I wasn't recording on my cell phone, but I wasn't recording on my glass either. Okay, and after a couple of minutes I said, why are you more concerned about my glass than about the cell phone that I pulled out? And she said, well, you obviously weren't recording on your cell phone. And I said, how do you know? And she said, well, I don't like people doing that either. I'm like, okay, if you're sincere about that, I believe you, but I don't think you're sincere about that. I think you just challenged me because I cornered you.
And that's my favorite thing to do is anytime somebody makes a surveillance argument, I'll say, hang on, I need to take a call, and I'll actually record them. And I'll hold my phone up right to my ear, pretend I'm talking for a couple of minutes, look away from them, and say, sorry, I had to take that. I said, what were you saying again? And as they start talking, I hit play on my phone. And their argument's instantly invalid. But I don't think people are aware of how easily that can happen. People assume that we're good people and we're not going to record each other with our cell phones. So all we need to do is transfer that cultural understanding to a new technology.
And that's the part that I have trouble grasping is why do people assume that people with cell phones are good but people with glass are bad?
Right.
Only because cell phones have been around longer, and so people are more comfortable
They're more
with that.
culturally accepted. Yeah. That's all it is.
The difference is if someone has a camera aimed at you versus a camera
versus the one
on
on
your shoulder.
Bullshit. It's same thing, Dan. That's not right. I've
And
got a camera aimed at my camera right now.
I mean, I don't think they've done a good job educating the public about what glass is and what it isn't.
That's a good picture right there.
Dan,
the camera on the camera.
What they have done.
Pam.
And people have a kind of a television movie type of mentality when it comes to stuff like that. Subterfuge and sneaking and spying and all that stuff. It's all associated with stuff like Google Glass and
Terminator movies
and pens. You know, it's like that's not a pen, but still, you know, like little recording.
We don't want to know what it was then.
It's,
one guy said it best, Pam.
Do you think Edward Snowden and Google Glass might have been unfortunately timed?
Well, of course, and the NSA spying and people. I think the truth is, and I've gone through it myself, and I'm probably still going through it a little bit. Is where everyone's having a WTF moment. It's like, holy crap. I can't do anything without being recorded, tracked, you know, looked at, you know, hacked, whatever. You know, people are just like, it's kind of overload. It's already, there's the camera out on the outside of the bar, right? There's the camera staring at the cash register inside the bar, and if I go to Walmart, there's all those black spheres all over the place where we know there are cameras, and you know, it's just like people are just like, you know what? I don't want some asshole walking up to me with their, you know, camera face and taking my picture. I really do think that that's kind of, you know, the glass explorers are getting the worst of it, especially the ones who see all the glass holes posting all the pictures on Google Plus and everywhere, you know.
It goes to motive.
Through glass, you know. It's just like, oh, look at this embarrassing, stupid thing I caught someone doing through glass, you know.
Pam, it goes to motive. When you go into a bank, you see, you know, you're under God knows how many cameras, and you expect that, and you welcome that. If somebody robs your bank, you want the person caught. If you go into Walmart, you recognize you're trying to catch shoplifters. It goes to motive. If some stranger came up to you and you had no idea who they were or whatever, you'd freak out.
It
And we'd
shows like America's Dumbest and America's Funniest Home Videos and People of Walmart and all this other stuff. You know what? Maybe I want to go to Bevmo in my fuzzy pajamas, and I don't want some asshole taking my picture while I'm there. You know, it's bad enough that I'm already decided to go there in my fuzzy pajamas rather than having my pictures, my fat ass, plastered all over social media because someone thinks that's funny.
Well, but here's the thing, though,
Do you
Pam.
see what I'm saying?
People are accepting.
I'm not saying it's rational. I'm just saying that it's the perception. And you know what? Someone told me something one time. Perception is reality. So my perception is my reality. Whether it's your reality or not, people are going to react to their reality.
And Alan and Pam, I like the best line that sums all this up. The objection to glass and the opposite reaction to the Moto 360 is that line that was from like a week or two ago where the guy said, "I want my technology to be subtle. It doesn't have to be literal. I mean, not to be a pun here, but it doesn't have to be in your face. It can be subtle." And this Moto 360, when it's in its analog-looking mode, it looks just like you wouldn't even know it was a smartwatch.
Here's the irony, though. So everyone is basically saying, oh, if glass made the camera totally hidden, if glass was just this totally invisible thing that it looked like you were just wearing normal glasses, that glass would be more acceptable, even though
it's the fact
it is now more invasive.
No, it would be you get less backdrop, but the fact is, a video camera on your face freaks people out, and there's no getting around that.
Stop. Time out.
That is the least use case of that glass.
I need to make a really important point here.
The freaking camera. The camera is the least thing you use.
Bullshit. You're totally wrong. You're totally wrong. The only thing that differentiates Google Glass from a smartwatch, other than where the display is,
which is a big thing,
that they're two different things, is this gives you the opportunity to share a moment in an instant without interrupting anything or pulling something out or moving your wrist or doing something like that, and gives you the opportunity to develop apps around augmented reality. A wristwatch can do everything glass can do without the camera.
No,
that is the least use case.
Peter, I disagree, and someone asked me this question on Wednesday night. Yes, the augmented reality is an aspect of it, but I think it's more augmented in the sense of presence. You know, it's the fact that I can very quickly see something, react to something, move on with that, without having to take my hands off the steering wheel and my eyes off the road, like I would with a watch. That I don't have to break eye contact with somebody. I get that very quick, instant response, instant grasp of what's going on around me, plus supplemented by this information. Now, if that's augmented reality, okay. I don't see it that way.
But see, you are breaking eye contact when you go to look at glass.
You are, but you're also returning much faster.
The argument is you shouldn't be using glass to respond to messages when you're driving. So to put those two things aside, then what else is there?
I need to go to the video because I think that's different than what you said the last time you were on this show talking about glass.
Yeah, I know. I changed my argument so I can win. It happens.
Well, at least he admits it.
He's just like me.
We've got this comment from Tim saying, "I can see a watch doing everything glass can."
No,
that's
Tim,
a bogus argument.
That's wrong. I'll admit that.
Well, here's the reason why it's a bogus argument. That's like saying, I can see a watch doing everything that my cell phone can, therefore I don't need the watch. It's not the function that's the significant part here. It's the form factor. The form factor of the watch and the form factor of glass let you do the same thing in radically different ways.
Right,
and that's the power of them.
And that's exactly why this article got picked up by Mashable, is I made an interesting argument that nobody else considered, is when these devices hit market, people are going to be more comfortable with the rationale of having this new notification system on their wrist that works better than anything ever has before than they will with the fascination of glass. So it's cultural acceptance at its finest. I mean, that's really what drives my argument here.
Let me ask you guys. Let me ask you, Glass. My fellow or my colleagues here who are glass holes.
Yeah.
If instead of doing the Explorer program that they did, if they had picked a town like they did with Google Fiber, okay, and they had said, we're going to give every single person, kid, adult, grandma, everyone, a Google Glass, and pick like a town of 10,000, you'd have a media frenzy, right? And it would be exclusive to that town.
And you'd have
And
even more
people
elitist
of all
arguments.
walks
You'd
of
have
people
more
of all
people
walks
pissed
of
off that
life.
they don't get it,
People,
and you'd have more people
hold on.
confused.
Let me people of all walks of life, people of all level of technical ability, people of all economic demographics, and they all got to use this product. Do you think what would have happened then?
You'd have even worse feedback. You'd have even worse pushback than you do now.
Why?
You'd have
SWAT teams from 7 surrounding cities have descended upon Wichita, Kansas, after homes were raided in over 12 suburbs after Google decided to bestow glass upon all of the residents there.
They could do a GPS app that would disable it.
426 homes burglarized. We'll have more on this story at 5 o'clock. Dan, back to you.
Every complaint that you hear about glass now would be magnified tenfold. Got a couple more comments. From Cy. Glass is a whole world of developers. Can the same be said for the 360? Unfortunately, yes, and oh my god, are some of them pains in the ass. Let's put it this way. For all of these stupid glass developers that we've seen, we have at least 10 stupid Wear developers. And I know this because they're asking all the exact same questions that the glass developers did a year ago. And they're behaving the exact same way.
Yet you are one of them, right? Because you wouldn't be cognizant of this if you weren't hovering in those forums. Are you going to develop for Wear?
Of course I am.
Of course he is.
At least I hope I am. Why wouldn't I? Of course, I'm also hoping that Wear will be on glass soon, so, you know.
Now, you probably have a huge advantage, right, over some rookie Wear developer because you've been developing
I think
for
I
glass.
do, and the biggest reason why I think I've got an advantage isn't because I understand the programming. It's because I understand the design. It really takes, and this is the subject of our book, so I get to plug the book again. It really takes you really need to think for glass when you design for it. And I very much think...
What's the name of your book?
Book available soon before glass is actually...
Yeah, tell us the name of the book and when it's going to come out and how people can get it and all that stuff.
If not, we get to rename it Think for Wear and re-release it instead.
And if we don't get a review copy, we're going to kick your ass. Pam and I are going to fly to New York personally and kick your ass on camera.
The name of the book is Think for Glass, Discover, Design, and Develop.
Excellent.
And that's what it's about. It helps people understand glass and what it is and why it's different and how to develop for something that is so different. And I think these are going to be the same sorts of things that people are going to need to do when developing for Wear, is understanding, no, you're not going to want to get the spreadsheet application running on Wear.
And his
Yes,
second
you probably
book,
could, but why would you?
His 2016 book or 2015 book will be Think for Wear, Think Design and Develop, which will sell 1,000 times more copies. And you can laugh now, but you heard it here first. He'll write a Wear book and he'll kick ass. I'm just trolling you, Alan.
2 more comments. Every episode turns into a glass recording debate, and I think the solution here is to have glass cover the camera when it's not taking a photo or video and show it when it is like a camera. I don't think that will help. And the reason why I don't think it'll help is because people don't care. They really don't care. You know, if I can explain to somebody, look, you know when I'm recording you because it lights up and you can see that I'm recording you. Oh.
You know, and Alan,
care.
your point is further confirmed by testimony of a lot of the people that have ordered these 3D printed glass caps and talking about their experience in the real world, and people still not buying into it. And how do I know that the prism isn't recording me? So it's a large misconception and mistrust issue.
Right. You know, those covers help in certain environments. So it now means that some people can wear glass at work because their work is mollified by the fact that, okay, it'll be covered up, that's fine, good. But the general consumer understanding, it's not sinking in. And Dan has said multiple times, Google's done a poor job of advertising this and
educating.
Who advertises a prototype though?
Well,
and
educating.
Most of this stuff will die when there's no more, when everybody can get glass. Once everybody can get glass and start using it just like headphones, just like everything else that looks weird to people, it'll start to die. Because once people use it, then they go, oh, you can't see my social, or oh, you're not recording me.
We
should move, but Alan,
whether they put it on or not, gets it. The problem is getting to that point. And what more could they do, though, Dan? They've been on Good Morning America demonstrating this.
I agree with you.
There have been videos out.
No, I'm not. Okay. Maybe it'd be a better thing to, instead of saying they've done a poor job, the results have been poor, because they have tried. I agree with you, and they're doing these remote, tours and stuff. The bottom line is, it's a tough sell. It's like, I'm thinking of Downton Abbey when the episode where they got the telephone, and they're all like, whoa, which end do you, and to the uneducated user, or to the non-technical person, or the person who doesn't follow tech news or is not really cognizant of this thing, they look at this and they've heard it's some kind of thing, and it reminds them of Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator movies where he can see everything. And it'd sort of be like if you were in Cracker Barrel and you had a big Canon 1D and you're aiming it at people randomly. I'm not taking your picture. What's the huff about? And I'm just looking. That's the way they would view it to someone. Because it's about motive. They question your motive. This is a stranger. He's got a camera aimed at me.
Dan, you're exactly right.
That's the problem. The perception and the uneducated. They're not stupid. They're not ignorant. But they're just not aware of the technology. They haven't been presented with it. It's brand new. It is like the first telephone in Downton Abbey. Peter?
Right, so that's why once people start having it and it's a common device that's around, then this whole camera thing is negated. It's pretty much over at that point. It's just a point, like you said, they're unaware, they don't know. So if you go to the grocery store and your worker's wearing it, then you go to the driver's license place and he's wearing it, and the police pull you over and he's wearing it.
Now, wait a minute. You're talking about two different things. You're talking about when this is released to the general public, and when the general public start to adopt this as a device that they're using as consumers. Now, I have two events that happened to me the last time I was leaving Dallas coming back to Nashville. The first was at a TSA checkpoint. When I approached to have my ID verified, the TSA agent said, "You're not recording me, are you?" And I looked at him without skipping a beat and said, "No, why? Would that make you uncomfortable?" He was completely unnerved, unhitched, didn't know how to respond to what I just told him. Because he knew, under law, I was allowed to record everything that happened as long as I didn't record the screen of the x-ray machine. So he didn't know what to do at that point. I knew I won the argument. He let me go on.
So when
you're lucky. I'm surprised.
Wait a minute, hang on. So I go to the flight. I go to board the plane. Do you know what the flight attendant says as I cross the threshold into the MD-80? He says, "Why did you just take a picture of me?" So, guys, you make a good point. It's going to take a while, and once these become commonplace in our communities, that's one thing. But the problem is, it's going to take a long time for your mailman.
I think on release it's not going to be a long time.
Peter, your examples were interesting because I have two exactly parallel examples.
And so do I.
When I went through TSA at one point, I took it off, put it in the bin. And as I'm putting myself back together afterwards, the TSA agent that was standing there said, "What is that?" And I said, "It's Google Glass." And she said, "What can it do?" And I said, "Well, usually I take a picture. Usually I ask someone if I can take their picture, but I know I'm in a controlled area and I don't want to get into any trouble here. So, so I described it. She goes, "Oh, you can take a picture here." And I said, "Okay, can I take your picture?" So I had this nice picture of a TSA agent. And it was a different flight. But in this case, I was flying out to California. I had the people sitting next to me got up to use the bathroom, so I stood up. I took some pictures using glass out the window, was standing in the aisle waiting for them to come back and sit down. One of the flight attendants came over to me and said, "They want to talk to you in the back of the plane." Very grim, very serious. Okay. In fact, this was on my way to I.O. last year. So I start walking to the back of the plane, And the lead flight attendant sees me, points at me, and goes, gestures, come here. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. I get there. He points at glass and goes, what is that? What does it do? And how can I get one?
See, not only does Alan have this freakish device, but he's like 7 feet tall, so there's no missing the 7 foot tall guy with the freakish device on his head. That's awesome. And also it's the demeanor, because obviously Peter was not as the way you describe it. Peter was more challenging, and you were more reconciliatory, and a lot of that diffuses.
You know what's funny is another flight attendant witnessed that exchange, and during the drink service, the other flight attendant that witnessed it came by and dropped me another cocktail and said, "This one's on me."
I'm sure you protested vigorously at that. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I've seen a lot of Glass Explorers say they've gotten free drinks from Glass. I never have. This kind of ticks me off a little bit.
Usually,
but you don't drink,
Alan, they expect me to buy the drinks because they think I'm
but
loaded.
you don't drink.
Yeah,
you don't drink, so who gives a...
That's true.
It's a new thing. It's a new thing, and people are freaked out about it.
But Peter, it's interesting. I guess part of my feeling about how people react towards Glass really have to do with how the people I've seen around me have reacted to it. And by the people around me, I don't mean my coworkers. I mean my dry cleaner. I mean like the 10-year-old kid who stopped me at the fast food restaurant to ask me about Glass. I mean the big guy on the number 4 subway coming out of 14th Street asking me about Glass. I mean the little tiny woman who actually on the same line but months later asked me about Glass. I mean the little tiny woman who said, "How do you like Glass? I signed up for it last month and my friend in Florida has it and really thinks it's cool." These
also,
are normal
Alan,
people.
Alan, it's important to not discount the power of the media stories that have come out. Like just this week, there was a story about some woman secretly recorded her neighbor with Google Glass.
No,
and that sort of
Get it right.
Or whatever it was, but like it was this big thing it made Drudge Report, for God's sakes.
Well, and the reason why is this was the woman who was assaulted the other month in the bar. It turns out in her past, she has covertly recorded her neighbors. So she was a creep.
She's violated an expectation of privacy and was issued a restraining order. But Alan, I want to go back to what you were talking about.
But this story does not help the cause of ingratiating Glass with the mainstream.
You're just driving a car, Dan. We see wrecks on the news every day. That doesn't. You still get in your car and go down the road. That doesn't.
But the car's not a year old. Is the difference?
No, but Alan,
that's what it was.
Alan made some interesting points about it. His interactions in daily life, and one of my favorite things to point out is one day when I was in Target, a woman with 3 children. I'm sorry, I think she had 2 children. She asked me. She said, "What is that on your face?" And her younger daughter literally pulled on her sweater and said, "Mom, he's got Google Glass." And the other daughter went off and spewed off every feature set of Google Glass and everything it ever does. And I just stood there in awe. And the woman looks at me and goes, "Really?"
That's awesome.
And I said, "Yeah, you want to try it on?" And it was just this moment of awe. I had 2 10-year-old girls do the entire demo of Glass for me. It was incredible.
How many times have each of you had to turn it?
That was flipping out, because I also think it's an age difference there too. That's the older they are, the more likely they are.
If you guys each had $1 for every time you've let someone try it on, would you have paid for Glass by now?
I definitely would have.
Not quite.
How often does that happen? How often does that happen? And what's the reaction? We've totally blown this topic out of the water. How often does that happen? And what's the usual reaction you get from people? Because I remember Pam. She's tried it. Maybe she can chime in on this as well. But Alan, what's the reaction you get when you here try it on?
I only rarely let people try it on. My usual way to demonstrate it is I explain a little bit about what it is, and then I say, "Can I take your picture?" And 90% of the time they'll say, "Sure." The other 10% of the time they'll first say, "What are you going to do with it?" And I'll say, "I can
send it to your email."
Well,
but you have to give me your email address. Oh, yeah, I see that.
Some people will say, "I'll send it to your email if you give me your email," and others I'll say, "I'll delete it if you'd like me to." And usually then they'll say, go ahead. In a couple of cases, I've had people say, no, please don't. I'm on the job, and I'd rather you not take my picture on the job. Things like that. But in general, they're fine with me doing so. I'll use voice commands to take the picture, and their face on the picture is usually captured like this. They are so tremendously excited when they see glass taking a picture and as it's used. And yes, I'll explain, I can send and receive text messages. And usually the next question is, how do you send and receive a text message with that? And I feel sorry for Jason Salas. He's my text message demonstration person. He gets all of my sample text messages. And he's gotten a lot of them over the past almost year. But people are awed by that. They find it really awesome, and they get it quickly. That it's not just, oh, you can take pictures and videos hands-free. It's that you can do anything hands-free. You can get the information quickly and get on with your life. And yeah, looping this back a little bit, some of that is going to carry over to the watch, but I think a lot of people also are going to see the watch can almost do it, but not quite. Glass does it in a different way, in a different form factor, and I think that form factor is going to be part of what's crucial about the difference. I'm not sure it's going to be enough in all of the cases, though, and that might turn glass into more of a niche product.
Alan, you just said like the magic statement, which is what supports the blog post. My argument in 360 beating out glass in the consumer market, if it were to go this year, the Moto 360 is not a disruptive technology. But here's the thing, if we're going to have progress, we need the disruptive technology. The reason we go on talking about this for 30, 90 minutes when we bring it up is this is the next step to get to the next thing. It's a disruptive technology. The reason people question it, they don't like it, it's disruptive. That's the nature of disruptive technology, and that's why I think it's so freaking exciting.
We are at actually 52 minutes for this. And yeah, and it, kind of in line with that, Peter, one of the things that we need to remember is glass...
Cadeus, you have to leave your comment up longer than 5 seconds.
No, sometimes I'd make the decision if the topic...
Okay, I was going to say, and you have to say hello.
No, I saw it, and I would have gone to Cadeus next to show the comment. Don't worry.
I know.
Is that it came out of Moto X. It came out of Google X. And Google X's mission isn't to create the product for 2 years from now. It's to create the product for 10 years from now.
Right.
And I like I said earlier, glass is 10 years ahead of its time. Cadeus, what was the comment?
Well, Charlie says that he's getting tired of the glass debate. Why aren't we talking more about the watch? What happened to that? He would ask us to move on to better topics, but apparently we already talked about it before the show. So.
Okay, let me ask a closing question. I think we all agree that there have been negative PR. There has been negative PR about glass, perhaps likely undeserved. If you were in charge, Cadeus, looking at all the stories about the state legislators who have never even seen the freaking product in the wild, wanted to introduce laws to ban it, and restaurants banning it, largely for PR, to get in the news, to get on Drudge Report, and this crazy lady, and all these stories, and countering the fact that people who are not educated about the product are concerned because they view it as someone holding a camera in their face, and that's more intrusive, and they question the motive. How would you, if you're head of PR for glass, how would you counter that? What should Google do?
Okay, so two things. Originally, what I would have done is I would have rolled it out like a traditional product rollout. I wouldn't have done this little the whole pattern, the lottery, the whole 9 yards. I wouldn't have rolled it out that way. I would have did it's undercover, it's beta, because that generally works better as we've learned. So looking in hindsight, I probably would have went that route with it. But being this far into it now, if I had to take over PR and all that stuff, it's not very much that you can do at this point. The media is going to continue to badmouth it until the public changes their opinion, because that's clickbait, that's what gets the hits, that's what gets the ratings. So it's nothing that Google can do or say at this point, this far in, that could change anything other than release it so everybody can have it and then it's old news.
So
then the news won't report
Kadeus,
about it.
this goes to Peter's question: is it dead? I mean, is it going to die, or is it going to?
How does that go to Peter's? That has nothing to do with dying.
I mean, what do you think? What is it? Is it? I mean, is glass going to be around in 10 years? Or
No, hang on. I'm more interested in hearing other people's thoughts on your previous question about what you would do differently at this point, because I think there are a couple of things that could be done differently. But I want to hear.
No, at this point, I don't really see very much that Google can do at this point. I mean, we're in it, we're here now. I mean, the only other thing they can do is speed this up and release it.
And my question
that depends on us.
Is you're the lady from Scandal? I mean, you're put in charge of this. What do you do now? How do you fix it? So, Peter, what would you do? You're now in charge of damage control PR mode for glass. What do you do to convince people and educate people? How do you do it? And you got to do it quick.
You know, Dan, that's such a compound question with so many variables. I would hesitate to answer it. First of all, I mean, what is the time frame for glass? What is the vision? What is it? You know, are we trying to get it to market by the end of the year? If not, maybe we don't do anything right now. Maybe we, you know, let things play out with the Snowden scandal a little bit. Let's give it a little bit more time. Let's let the American fear kind of subside a little bit. If we're trying to get it to market by the third quarter, then we've really got to put a game plan together. But I would need to know what's the budget, what's the scope, what can we talk about, what can't we talk about? Do we want to step on toes on Android Wear, or are we about to integrate with that? There's too many things at play to be able to answer that question right now.
Anyone else want to take a stab at answering it before I do? Anthony?
I don't know why Google needs to care about it. I mean, if Google Wear, you know, cannibalizes Google Glass, then so be it. I mean, if that means the watch is successful and they have a successful product, they don't need. I don't see the need to worry about glass going away.
My answer would be fundamentally, and I agree with Peter. There's a whole lot of variables there, but fundamentally they need to change the what's the word I was going to say? They need to change the topic. They need to change the message. Right now, the message of glass is you can jump out of a balloon and take pictures on your way down. You can take pictures, you can record video, you can take pictures. They haven't really shown what glass is good for besides taking pictures. And I think they need to do that. Now, they can do that in combination with drumming up support for Wear, because there are parallels there. But fundamentally, they need to change the message away from the camera, or at least away from the very, very narrow focus on the camera, and need to talk about you'll pardon the pun, the bigger picture.
Okay,
so I want to say one thing to that, Alan, though.
Can we get Anthony's first?
Yeah, please.
Go, Anthony.
Thomas says, I would lower the price on glass. That will always work by forcing the product on the people. What price?
If you want to buy glass, you can buy glass. It's not too hard to get into the Explorer program these days.
Okay, so what I would do.
So, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, what I would do is to kill two birds with one stone. I would get Larry to go on 60 Minutes and have Larry get very well briefed by his PR people on how to do it. I would have him do a really good in-depth inside thing, so 60 Minutes is all excited. And we saw what that did with Amazon when Jeff Bezos went on 60 Minutes. That would be huge, and then I would just blister, because they have a great ad agency. I would just plaster the airwaves with TV commercials about it. And it's that's how I would counter the publicity. And the power of a 60 Minutes segment is remarkable. At the same time, it's important to remember that these products are not mutually exclusive. Glass
let me just interrupt you for a second.
What
would you show on the commercials?
I have no idea. I mean, I can't write the next Geico commercial. That's why I'm in awe of them. I mean, I'm not.
That's why you're a newspaper guy and not an advertising. Wait a minute. Peter, what was your
I mean,
thought?
I've never seen glass I've never seen glass live. I mean, so obviously I know about advertising. That's how we fund our model. But go ahead, Peter.
So here's the thing. This post from Google Glass was shared yesterday, 2:45 p.m. Central.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be really narcissistic and cocky and go out on a limb and suggest that this post may have been a knee-jerk reaction to a post that was published on Mashable. And the reason that I'm saying that is that 4 out of the 10 myths debunked in this post center around the fact that Glass has a camera on it, which would differentiate Glass from Moto 360, which I think what they were trying to do with these 10 things was focus on, we know it has a camera, but, we know it has a camera, but, and then all they do for the 3 photos they include it with is, hey, look how cool it is to have a camera. You don't get tech neck and you're not taking a picture with your iPad. I just thought that was funny, and that's a huge perception issue. If that's all they're after is, hey, this one has a camera, the camera's not bad.
Okay, Alan, how do we proceed? What topic? We've already done an hour on this, right? So what should we do?
Yeah, I think we've done all of the glass ones. We skip down to the next non-glass topic.
Okay, so this is kind of neat. This is a Google Street View hack that turns your city into a post-apocalyptic apocalyptic jungle. This is kind of just sort of interesting and of no use other than entertainment value. And then Alan can discuss the rules that they're breaking.
Why do I get to discuss
with
this?
the API? Because you're that smart guy in the room with the funny glasses, and you're tall, so we assume you know more than we do. So anyway, okay, Google Street View hack turns your city into a post-apocalyptic jungle. So here we go. This is I don't know, it's New York City or some big city, but it's kind of neat. So what you do is you go to it's Urban Jungle Street View, and then you choose a location, like wherever. Like I'll just randomly click on New York here, and you can put your zip code in. It works for mine. And then it's kind of slow to respond because I guess it's building stuff. And then you pick a place, and then it takes the regular Street View thing, and it just adds this weird jungle thing. It's just so it's like a neat little effect. But what's funny is the guy just unabashedly says, "I've broken every possible rule about the API, what you're allowed to do with it." And apparently they've closed these things in the past. So I imagine you could, do whatever you want. You could have Godzilla in your neighbor's front yard and post it on YouTube or whatever with this kind of technology. But this is just kind of silly and fun. But Alan, why would Google care if you hacked their system and did fun stuff like this? I don't understand what that issue would be.
Because they're worried you're going to use it to make an image of maps that is disparaging to maps. I don't know. I mean, basically, the real reason why they've got a leg to stand on is that he's using an undocumented API.
That would explain all the every accessory for Google Voice you've ever seen. So anyway, that was my fascinating topic about the jungle thing. I just thought that was fun. Yeah. That's 3 minutes of your life you can never have back. Okay, so next thing, I'm not sure who did this. Chromebooks to teachers at a discounted rate of $99. This is from Harold. Okay, so
I'm not sure who did this, despite the fact that it says from Harold.
It was in the. It's right in the topic description. All right, so I said earlier one of the big things, smart moves that Apple did was that early on they really did a lot of partnerships with schools, and a lot of kids got their chops on Macs or Macintosh computers. So what do you think about this, Alan? How big is this? Because we're seeing more like integration with Google making a foray into the classroom.
Well, as always, this is a good thing. I mean, this is it works with donors choose, so it's basically it's actually even less than $99 if I'm following this correctly. So it's basically teachers will be getting it for free because donors will be paying the $99. So this is very awesome for schools and awesome for donors that they're essentially getting a massive discount. Their money is going much further. This is, it's once again, Google is showing that, hey, they're going to take this education thing seriously, and they want to get Chromebooks into the hands of people who are going to use it. And one of the big groups of people that are going to use it are teachers and students. And it's a great tool for them because most teachers and students don't need the power that you get from heavy laptops. And they're the ones who will be able to take advantage of being able to use the Chromebook to access and produce YouTube videos, being able to use the Chromebook to access text documents and spreadsheets and presentations. So, all of these things, it's a perfect level for teachers and students. Any other thoughts on this from anyone besides me, please?
Except for the fact that you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sam.
Except for the fact that most school districts have this funny habit of blocking the internet, or not having internet connection at school. So that makes those Chromebooks pretty brick.
And that is true because
all you do is limit the connection so you can access the Google Apps account in whatever necessary domains. You can block the rest of the internet. I mean, that's a silly argument.
Yeah, but Google is YouTube, and Google is Google Search, and Google is, all this other stuff.
You don't need all of those things to use a Chromebook, though. If you're talking about having some sort of curriculum, I mean, shit, if I had elementary school students, I'd sure as hell want to restrict what they're able to do while they're sitting there in the classroom.
And actually, here's one of the neat things about Chromebooks in general is most of us who are using Chromebooks are using it for our own personal use. One of the really neat features about Chromebooks in an educational environment or in a corporate environment is that there is a Chromebook controller, and that controller creates limits on what the devices and the accounts can do. So most educational Chromebooks can't get to an unfettered internet. They get to Google Safe Search and Google Safe Search results, and that's it. And Google Apps, and they can lock it down fairly well, from what I understand. I don't even know because I've never done it either. But this is one of the things that's attractive to many schools and companies is that instead of having a fairly complex system, which they needed to do for PCs, and I'm not even sure much was available for Macs, it's built in to the Chromebook.
Okay. So we're all excited about that. Except for Anthony, who's anti-Chromebooks in education. I'm just kidding.
And Dan, who thinks it's just ghetto.
No, I think they have their place. I think they're awesome. I couldn't lay my newspaper out on them, but I could certainly browse the web and use Facebook.
I mean, you could if the program you used was available on the web. You could lay out your newspaper, right?
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, you have no idea the size of.
I of course I don't. If I did, then I'd be making mid six figures like you, right?
Anyways. All right, so next up is Turkey's Twitter ban, workaround Google DNS. I don't know who added this. I didn't see this. Hopefully the person who added it's here. I know that Turkey, the country, not the popular poultry item at late November in the United States, the only semi-religious holiday that's universally celebrated by all religions and non-religions. But Turkey has followed in the tremendously successful footsteps of Hosni Mubarak by trying to ban something. We should call this the Barbara Streisand topic. If you don't understand the reference, Google the Streisand effect, and you'll get it. So apparently, Twitter is people are using Twitter to expose corruption in Turkey, and I have not lived in Turkey. I may have visited there, but I'm not sure because I was so young. But I do remember I lived for 2 years in Kafisia, Greece, near Athens, when my dad was stationed there, and so I've been to that area of the world, and I can tell you there's absolute rampant corruption in that area, and they were tweeting about it and exposing things, and Prime Minister Erdogan, I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly, tried to shut it down, but then Twitter was, I guess, officially saying you can, giving advice on how to bypass that. And so we're kind of almost like a Arab Spring Egypt thing where they were using Twitter to, they tried to shut it down and it didn't work. So any thoughts on, I'm not sure who put this in, but who wants to weigh in?
I put this in, or Pam put this in at my request. I think really the really neat aspect of this that I saw is that the way people were getting the word out about how to get around the block is basically by spray painting the IP address for a new DNS server. And the DNS server that they were advertising is Google's DNS server. For everyone who is interested, by the way, the IP address for that server is 8.8.8.8. Which really easy to remember.
Don't forget the alternate one, 8.8.4.4.
Yes.
Now, interestingly enough, on Saturday, March 15th, it's alleged by, I think the company's called BGP Mon, that the Google DNS servers were hacked and rerouted for 22 minutes. So, I mean, that shows you would think Google's DNS, of anybody's, would be infallible. But even DNS is something you have to worry about now.
DNS is tricky for a lot of reasons, and part of it is making sure that you can get to the DNS server. This isn't a perfect solution because really if they wanted to block those two servers, it wouldn't be too hard to do. But it's kind of clear that their attempt to block Twitter was a really, really unsophisticated block. And the only reason why this worked is because it was an unsophisticated block.
So, good for Twitter and the power of speech.
So I have a stupid question before we move on,
Sure.
please. What does DNS stand for?
Sure.
Domain name server.
I get to explain this one. Sure. It's the domain name service. Basically, what the internet works on two different systems. The first is we have these names that we're all familiar with to the websites. We go to google.com. We go to facebook.com, twitter.com. I'm trying to think of a non.com address, but you get the idea.
Whitehouse.gov.
Whitehouse.gov, thank you.
Hangout 10. Hangout 10.
No. On some level, these names need to get turned into a unique set of numbers so that every machine on the internet has a unique set of numbers that identify it, while a name can be mapped to more than one of these machines. So there needs to be something that converts, and I'm simplifying everything for Cybernaut and all of the others who are watching us. I'm simplifying it. I know I'm simplifying it.
You're not going to get anything.
Case.
If you make a mistake, Cybernaut will be on you. Yeah.
So at some level, there needs to be a conversion between the name and the number. The system that does this is known as DNS, or the Domain Name Service. What it sounds like they tried to do in this case was kind of make changes to the DNS system is a very, very broad, intertangled, complex set of servers and protocols and how things work that try to resolve things on the lowest level possible and end up not doing so. So what Turkey apparently did, and I'm guessing a little bit, is they tried to make it so that all of their local DNS servers had bad information for Twitter.com, which would be clever if people didn't know how to change their DNS servers, but people do. And if they don't, they know who to ask to do those changes. So it was an easy workaround in this case. If they wanted to do something more sophisticated, they would also need to block the DNS protocol from working outside their borders and then make sure that they had control of DNS inside. And Cybernaut, he called me out. It's not calling you out. It's knowing that you would catch the mistakes that I make and the fact that I'm simplifying things, just like you caught the mistakes that I made and that I was simplifying things back when we were talking about encryption. I just wanted to warn you up front, I know I'm making things overly simple. And it is overly simple because DNS is complicated. A lot of the internet protocols are complicated at this point.
And the bottom line is it's a number system, but they recognized early on that people wouldn't remember numbers. They can remember Google.com or Prisoner.com or Hangout10.com or WhiteHouse.gov, and you can promote that. But rather than saying like, "Hey, check out our website at 128.64.384," and these have to be stored locally on a bunch of servers, and they have to propagate to each other. And go ahead, Alan.
And it's interesting considering that before the internet, that's exactly what we had were numbers. We called them telephone numbers. Fundamentally, that's what we're working with here. Is IP addresses are telephone numbers. They're globally unique. Sometimes they're complicated and messy, and sometimes people want to get vanity ones like 8.8.8.8. But most of the time, people will use a name instead. They'll look it up in a phone directory. And DNS is just a globally distributed phone directory.
So it's kind of like when someone says like, call 1-800 pizza now or whatever, and every local phone company has to know what that means.
No, it's like this. It's like when you go grocery shopping and they scan a barcode, and if you look on the price on the computer, it says potato chips. It's the opposite of that. When you say potato chips, it finds the barcode so it knows where to go. Can I simplify it anymore for you?
No, that was actually pretty good. Pam, does that make sense to you?
Yes, it makes sense. Sorry.
Oh my God.
I was muted. I'm like,
I was just
okay.
hoping I didn't put you to sleep.
No, you didn't put me to sleep.
Okay, so next up, I had posted about this, and I see Pam put it in. Microsoft got in a little bit of trouble.
I saw this story, and my first reaction was going to be, Dan is going to have a field day with this.
Oh, yeah. Now, ordinarily, the basic story is this. There was allegedly, there was a Microsoft employee, there was a blogger who was posting stuff that was inside secrets at Microsoft. And Microsoft suspected that an employee was feeding this blogger who had a history of allegedly, right? Everything I say is allegedly, right? Because it's a criminal thing. And I want to get sued. So this blogger was posting stuff. They suspected that it was an internal source. So they looked at the email of the employee, and they apparently allegedly discovered that this employee had sent code to this blogger. Then the blogger, who obviously was not as sophisticated as one might think, was using a Hotmail account. A, he was using a Hotmail account. B, he was exposing Microsoft secrets and getting them via a Hotmail Microsoft-owned property account. Where do you begin to dissect that? But the issue is that they were clearly perfectly in their rights looking at the company email account. Legally, if you work at IBM or Microsoft or Google and you're doing nefarious things using your Google Doc, at Google, Alan or Dan or Pam at google.com email address, the company has a legal right to look at that. And you know that up front, and that's common knowledge. But to look at a subscriber's Hotmail account is a whole different ballgame. Now, ordinarily, given the circumstances, because I don't like to see an insider selling or giving or for whatever reason nefariously providing trade secrets, again, allegedly, to some blogger or to another corporation or whatever, I would ordinarily might give them a pass on this, except this exposes Microsoft for the hypocrites that they are. They're literally running an entire campaign with TV commercials and primetime television, the Scroogle.com website, and the crux of their argument is that Google is scanning your email. We'd never do that. They're doing it to sell you ads. We would never look at your email. And yet, when it suits their needs, they do. And they did. And now they said they're reviewing, but it really was a half-ass, it was a non-apology apology, a non-review review. They're not changing anything. So only because they had made such a big deal about Google doing this in such a hypocritical manner, and instead of innovating, they're criticizing that this is relevant, and that's why they were exposed. And this was like on Drudge Report. I mean, it's a big story. So I don't know wherever you guys want to begin on this. Again, they have every right to look at a nefarious employee, but to look at a user is a different story. And they might have been given a pass on this given the circumstances, but for the fact that they were so hypocritical about Google, a competitor, doing a much milder thing where a computer was looking at something just to deliver ads, clearly with the user's knowledge, and then it turns out that they're actually having human beings look at a user's stuff. So it's completely ridiculous. Alan, and then whoever else.
What, you couldn't start with whoever else first?
Were you using your phone app to unmute your microphone, or were you using a physical button there, Alan?
If I was using a phone app, it would have gone a lot faster. As it was, however, I could not do that because...
I'm a clinger. Go ahead.
Dan, I want to call you out.
Go ahead.
Go, Peter.
Tech blogger
You
Peter.
covered every angle of that in your introduction. I don't think we have anything to talk about.
There really isn't too much there. I mean,
you covered it.
Well, go ahead. I mean, Pam put it in, or you put it in, Alan. Alan, you got thoughts on this?
Yeah, but you already addressed my thoughts. I mean, basically, what it boils down to is, Microsoft's perfectly within their rights. It is perfectly legal and justifiable what they did, and yet it shows them for the hypocrites that they are. Big surprise. Is anyone here surprised? Raise your hand.
No.
Yeah, I don't see.
I mean, if any corporation does this isn't a surprise. This is quite normal. If you're using their stuff, they have the right to look through their own stuff. I mean, that's.
And yet people get all twisted about it every single day, don't they?
Look, if someone
Oh my God, my company, warned me because I'm on Facebook using their computer and their network and their electricity during work times when I'm supposed to be working. I mean, and then they're like, oh my God, I can't believe they spied on me. No, that's crap.
It's no different to me than if you're a customer service rep and you're on the phone with customers and they say this call might be monitored for quality assurance.
Yeah, but the difference is that, what they do is when you're hired or when you sign up for something, they hand you like this packet of stuff that no one reads. You don't get when you sign on, you don't get this big thing that says your email may be subject to, monitoring every time you send an email. So there is a difference. You don't get that notification. It's not in your face. And so people conveniently forget about that.
I think.
Can you tell I've been drinking?
Well, Thomas Milne
I don't know,
can.
Pam. This seems like an incredibly sober assessment.
Thomas Milne can. His comment there, that's funny. So anyway, yeah, so clearly, I mean, look, if someone is stealing your stuff, you have a right, to catch them. No problem with that. The only reason this is news is because they've been hitting Google for doing much less. I mean, having a computer, not a person, look at your emails and distributing or serving ads based on your interests. Often, in my opinion, a helpful manner. And then for them to get caught with their pants down, hand in the cookie jar, or whatever cliche you want to use. Peter, you're good. Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Well, Pam goes up and gets us another round. All right. I'm just kidding. All right. So this next story is really cool. I saw this today, and this is pretty genius, and I want to get your thoughts on this, and we'll probably get trolled by the Walmart haters on this, but this is smart. Walmart's doing this test thing. It says Walmart's new tool gives competitors prices. Basically, everyone plays this game. A lot of folks play this game where you go to different places and, like whatever it is on sale at Food Lion or Martin's or Kroger or whatever your grocery store is. Walmart's got this new thing they're testing, and it's called what's it called? It's an app on your phone, and you can scan your receipt. When you're done shopping, what they do in your market, let's say your local competitors are Safeway and Giant and Kroger, or whatever the local grocery stores are, or CVS or whatever stores. And then somebody mute Shriek. Mute. What they do is when you're done shopping, you'll get a barcode on your receipt, and then you can take your phone, you can scan it, and then they check the local advertised prices in the Saturday, Sunday circulars in the newspaper and wherever else they advertise. And if another place has a better price, then they will refund you the difference in the form of a credit on your Walmart debit card or whatever. So it's kind of complicated. But the bottom line is you can go to Walmart and know it doesn't include things like Amazon, although Amazon's not particularly competitive in groceries in most markets. And in most things you would buy at Walmart, they're not. But except like electronics, they're very competitive. But if you're getting a can of beans, it's probably cheaper at Walmart than anywhere else. But sometimes the local grocery store will have a sale that's cheaper. And I think this is genius. The idea that you can just do one shot with a barcode, and every single item on your receipt, if there's any competitor price currently cheaper, then they will give you that money back. Even if it's a credit, because if you're a Walmart shopper, you're going to use them next week again, so it's not like they're not giving you the money. What do you guys think about this? I think this is, A, what do you think about it in general? B, how will the competitors react? What's the impact of this? Because I think this is kind of a game changer concept of retail. I think this is smart.
If I was a competitor, you want to know what I would do? I would start offering products for a penny and tell people to go buy them at Walmart.
But you've got to advertise it. Go ahead, Sheila. What do you think?
Like if they, it depends on what it is. Like the produce, I don't like Walmart produce, so that's not going to save me any money there.
It lasts 48 hours, Sheila. What are you talking about? What's your complaint?
48 hours?
Maybe 72.
No, yes, the bananas are a little cheaper, but they don't stay as fresh.
Dan, you and Sheila laughed at my suggestion, and yet I've seen stores do that. I've seen supermarkets in the past have said things like, such and such store says they will offer you prices, they will match our prices. You think so? Go buy this list of products and see what they do.
There are some things at Walmart, yes, I do like the price matching that they do. So, yeah, I like that idea. But I just take my ad with me. So.
I don't know how it is in other markets, but you just got to shop around. There's, like in your outlet store, Tops is, has this perception of being the cheaper place to go, but if you're like doing your legitimate straight shopping at Tops, you're going to spend a whole lot more than you are at Wegmans. But if you go to Tops and you shop the sales, you're definitely going to, get things for a lot cheaper at Tops. But, like if you're buying your bread and your milk and your eggs, you don't want to be doing your regular shopping at Tops because you pay a fortune, even though, they have all these items on sale that are at cheap prices. I don't know. I whatever. Walmart wants to, it. I don't know. The stores are going to cater to the customers, and Walmart caters to a certain type of customer, and higher end stores with higher prices sometimes have higher prices, and that's because they're catering to customers that want service and not crap.
I just hate the games that they play. Like, I shop at Walmart all the time, but I don't like that. Like cheese, like Kraft cheese, if you buy the single pack, it's whatever it is. I don't know. Let's say it's $2.50. So that would mean it should be $7.50 for the triple pack. The 1 pound bag, the little of Kraft singles is $2.50, say, and then the 3 pack is $7.50, right? Well, it might be like $9.50 for the triple pack, and it may be located in a different place. Well, why would the larger size be more expensive than the smaller size? People just naturally assume, that's the value pack, right? Well, not always. So then you got to play these games, and then one day you go to Martin. I wanted a Food Line because a buddy of mine works there, and it was like $2 for a 2-liter Diet Right. At Walmart, it's $1. At Martin's, it might be one thing this day, and then the next day it's way more.
Yeah, I mean,
and so you got to
I
run
don't
all
understand.
these places. That's the beauty of this thing, is what I'm saying, Anthony. The beauty of this is as a PR gimmick, right? Well, that's what it is. The beauty is you can go to Walmart and they'll look at all the other places in their circulars, and you scan one thing and you've got instant match on everything.
I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, and I agree, but I don't understand why it's so difficult for people to ignore the price of the particular product and look at the unit price, because everything is required to, be broken down by pounds or, by ounces or whatever, a common denominator. So, the customers just need to be intelligent and look at that unit price.
Yeah, but they make
look at that price on
correct.
Because
well, there's your
they need to be intelligent.
There,
is easier in theory than reality. For example, sometimes they'll put something in a different section. Like I looked at I don't know if it was waffles or frozen fruit or something, and they had in one store they had a large package. They had all the frozen fruit together, and there was like all these different sizes, and then in a whole separate section of the store there was the exact same brand of a product, but it was a big bag, right? And it was the per ounce price was like way higher than the other one, and it was I think it was deliberately in that separate section because you couldn't compare. I mean, they play these games, just like the story about JCPenney that came out about the whole markup to mark down, which is a common thing that all retailers do. I don't know why JCPenney's getting beat up over that, only because they stopped doing it for temporarily and then they restarted it, so now they're getting beat up over it when every other place like Kohl's does it. Go ahead, Anthony.
I mean, honestly, I truly don't think that Wegmans does this game that you're talking about at all. So, that's not why I'm coming out, But just look at the unit price, and it's not even an intelligence thing, because, I'll tell people that are more intelligent than me, look at the unit price, and it's just a lazy problem is what it is. Intelligence and laziness.
Pam, you want to weigh in on this? You buy stuff.
So I went and got a beer during the explanation, and I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right. All right, that's cool.
I'm just being honest.
It's totally cool.
You talked about
That's gonna be
this.
gonna be on the promo reel, just so you know, Pam.
Now, what's the app called? What was the app called, Dan?
Let me find it. I don't know, but go ahead. While you're talking, I'll find it.
Price check or something like that.
Anyway, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, depends on sometimes at the product, you know. If it's a name brand, yeah, but normally I'll go buy the Great Value if it's cheaper. So I don't know how that would work. I don't know.
You just roll the dice.
Yeah.
On certain things, it doesn't matter, right?
Right. It all
Like-
depends on price and things. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Pepsi, I don't buy off-brand.
You got to have your Pepsi.
I gotta have my Pepsi.
Yeah, so it's all, so I mean, it's a decision. I just think that
Right.
this is an app, and so I introduced it as a tech topic, but I just think it's an interesting new approach.
Especially if it offers me a lower price, then yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I'd go for it.
And it's called the savings catcher. That's what it's called. The savings catcher. And if you type savings catcher in Google, you can get to it. And so that's Walmart's thing. Okay, so we have one more topic, I think, before we get to our weekly rundown. And I did not put this in here. I haven't seen this yet. I'm not sure. Was this Alan or who did this? Okay, so this is called stretching. This is like what CNN does when...
I thought you put this one in, Dan, because it's
I didn't
so
put it in
up your
there.
alley.
Well,
savings catcher?
it's all coming back to me now, Alan. It says, let's see here. I should have opened it incognito. That's how you can do this here.
So you could read the title first.
I can't even read it. I've hit the paywall. So here's what you do. This is a tech tip here. What you do is you go back to the topic, and then you right-click on it, and you say open in an incognito window, and then miraculously it opens up. Another thing to do, if that doesn't work, is you highlight the title, and then you copy it, and then you search for it in Google, and then it will open up. That works for the Wall Street Journal. Because
I can talk about it if you really wanted me to.
If they
Dan.
put the synopsis in there, then they have to let you see it because they can't let Googlebot see different what the consumer sees. So anyway, go ahead, Alan.
So basically, the title is Revelations of NSA Spying Cost U.S. Tech Companies. And the argument that's been made is that U.S. tech companies have either been losing money because foreign companies, foreigners? Boy, that sounded American-centric.
Pam, can you pronounce foreigners for Alan?
Foreigners.
Are you making fun of me, Dan?
Yes. The countries and people outside the U.S. are choosing to spend their money on local corporations or are forcing U.S. corporations to build data centers outside the U.S. that are, at least in theory, not subject to U.S. spying. I don't know. There's really not much more to it than that. It's an interesting argument. Certainly, I think it plays well locally. I don't necessarily think it'll get what they want because the NSA is quite happy to spy on foreign companies, on domestic companies, no matter where they're located. So they don't have, especially if they're not located in the U.S. So this is really, in some ways, just going to make the NSA's job easier, not harder. Anyone have any thoughts on this? Because I still don't, and I'm ready to go to bed. So, Sheila, how was your Google Plus week?
Not bad. Ended up on a good note today.
And that good note would be?
As in, the 2014 Spring Scavenger Hunt is on. Yay! With Krista Ray.
Yes, in fact, if you haven't been noticing, while the show has been on, she started posting
I know.
The information, which we can't talk about. But
that's right.
So I'm glad to hear you signed
Krista
up.
has?
Yes.
Already?
Yes.
Oh, crap. Okay.
I'm glad to hear that you were able to sign up. I'd like to thank you for trying to sign me up, even though it
You're
wasn't necessary.
welcome.
It was
Well, see,
appreciated.
I didn't see you post, because the thing was flying. So.
No, I know, and I wouldn't have noticed either if it wasn't for the fact that I went looking to see if my
Deliberately.
father had signed up, and I noticed my name. But I didn't expect it. So it was very appreciated. I think one of the interesting things about the hunt this round is that she's got sponsors again, and she's making a big deal about it. What do you think about the sponsorship of the hunt this round?
I'm excited for it. I'm excited.
Awesome. Is there anything else this week?
I mean, if I could win something, I'd be happy, but and anything else, I'm going to my mom's tomorrow to help my siblings get her house ready for yard sales. So, downsizing her stuff. So, there you go.
Pam, how was your Google Plus week? Did you sign up?
I did sign up. I was able to sneak out of a meeting and go pee.
It's my break time, thank you. Good girl.
Yeah, normally I work from home on Fridays, but I had to go in for several meetings, and I don't know if you've ever heard of a 15-2. It's like when the big boss has like a small group of just people that he handpicks, and gets our feedback and talks to us about what's going on, and basically, instead of a one-on-one, it's a 15-on-2. It's called. But there was only one executive, so it was basically a 15-on-1. So I had that today, so I had to go in for that, and I had a meeting right before that on our goals for the year, and I just said, "Oh, I'll be right back." And I was close. It was like 40. It basically sold out in 48 minutes. So I was glad to get a spot, even though the talent, like I said before, the talent is incredible, and
it is
a little intimidating to go up against all those professionals, but.
You know what? I
Even
don't
if they're
care.
amateurs, you know what I mean by professionals. I mean they're just
You know, I saw a quote by Mirov, who said that for her this wasn't, the reveals are always nice, but the she's totally not interested in the competition because she knows she's not going to get up, is not going to be a first, second, third, or honorable mention. I know I'm not going to be a first, second, third, or honorable mention, but we keep doing it because we keep learning new things and we keep trying new things, and it challenges us, it pushes us. That's why I like doing it anyway.
Yeah. So other than that, let's see, this week. So I've been splitting my time with making jewelry and Google Plus and reading a book. So I haven't read a book for pleasure in a very long time, and I'm reading Isaac Asimov for the first time. I've never read any of his books, so I'm
That's
reading
awesome.
The Caves of Steel.
Oh, an excellent book to start with.
And so it's not that I'm like weaning off of Google Plus. I'm trying to basically bucket my time a little bit, a little bit different. So instead of just, doing nothing but that all day and all night or whatever, I'm starting to do other things and then just like break away and do 5 minutes of Google Plus and then go on to other things.
That's probably a good idea.
The only thing I miss about doing it that way is that you miss engaging with people on their posts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to make a concerted effort, because I really like the group that I hang out with on Google Plus, and I really like going out and engaging on their posts where their rules are different and their group of commenters are different and everything, and what they post is different. I really like that variety. So I'm kind of struggling right now, trying to find a balance with that. So
I haven't posted on anybody's stuff lately. I read, but I don't comment.
yeah. So anyway, that's my, basically that's been my week, is kind of readjusting how I use Google Plus and how much time I spend doing Google Plus, because I really need to break away a little bit.
Are you addicted?
I'm totally addicted. Yep.
Me too.
And it's unhealthy, right? So
Right.
I can't just spend all day doing Google Plus. So. Yeah. And that's what I would do. I mean, seriously, if left to my own devices, that's what I would do. I would just sit there because for me, the real intellectual, people fascinate me, and how they interact and how they behave, and the weird interactions, and the turmoil, the drama, the complex thoughts and emotions that happen on this platform are completely fascinating. And so I just
Is it a text form of a Second Life?
That. Yeah, and also because I have such a, I don't have ADD quite like you do, but I get bored very easily, and I can hold 5 or 6 conversations at the same time. And that's just, it's very addictive for me, because I can have a conversation about 5 different topics and 5 different tones. I can be sad on one and happy. I mean, it's weird.
Exactly. I know what you mean, Pam. And it's crazy. People don't get why I do what I do. So.
Yeah. My husband's just like, what? I don't even know. So
mine rolls his head.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'm just trying to find my balance, and so this week has been an exercise in that. So anyway, that's been my week.
Cadeas Kalut in Newport Beach, California.
My Google Plus week was pretty interesting. I had a lot of rents this week that I usually don't do usually, but I had a lot of things kind of set me off with services and such, and so I've done a lot of renting on Google Plus and off Google Plus. But other than that, it's been good. Google Wallet / offers has kind of upset me. That was probably my most recent rant today, but other than that, yeah, pretty good.
One of your rants was about
the Moto 360 hangout.
Yeah.
That whole thing. This whole time we've been sitting here, I've been playing with events, trying to understand where everything broke down at, because that's just kind of weird how it went. So, yeah. So I was a little upset about that. It shouldn't have went down like that, especially when we had so many people tuned in.
What was the deal? Was it because there was some? It was described to me as a dig against Google, what she first said, but what she actually said was the people responsible for this hangout are not the ones designing the watch, because the hangout was delayed for 15 or 20 minutes or whatever it was.
Right, because they was having an issue with
half hour.
Do we know what she was referring to? Was she referring to cheese?
They were having an issue with events, is what the issue was. Is where when you try the same thing we've went round and round about, where you try to launch an event and then you're trying to do a hangout at the same time, and if you go one route it doesn't work 100%. If you go the other route, it was a mess. So I'm actually, this literally what I'm doing right now is I'll sit here experimenting with events and this show and throwing it around and seeing what's happening over here to see if there's a easy way to figure out.
I was actually in Walmart, and I was trying to watch or have it in my pocket and listen on my headphones, right? And I kept refreshing, and at one point, are there hangouts like among event attendees in addition to the hangout on air? Because at one point it's
that's where the broken is.
And this is the problem, is that you can create an event with an attached hangout. But that's a hangout, not a hangout on air. And the people who are joining the event get to join the hangout, not watch the hangout. And this is the mess that got confused.
And it's been like this for a year and a half.
Wait, real quick. So a couple of people have asked me to create an event for our show. And what I'm afraid of is if I create an event, I want to create an event as a placeholder. I don't want to attach any video to it. I don't want
You don't have to do that.
question app or anything. I just want to create, hey, our show's starting at this time. And so I was
We can do that. We've done it before.
fearful of doing that because I don't want Dan to have to go into events and start the show from the events because people are going to be...
No,
Okay, so we can do it separate.
We can do it. We've done it separate. We've
Okay.
done it. I mean, for a couple of months ago, for several months running, we were doing it. Just I was in charge at the time, and I was inevitably not not setting them up early enough to take advantage of it. But it's definitely doable. You, Kadeus, and I will sit down and discuss the best way to do it because we have a couple of options. We'll find the best way to do it, and we'll get it done.
Okay.
But just to set up a regular event that's not a video event.
Exactly.
So what?
Right,
What is
and
the-
that's what I'm experimenting with. There's some things we'll talk about after the show, but there's some other things that we can do that does, and that's what I've been sitting here playing with for the last 20 minutes. So,
But
I
on
know
that
there's-
specific thing with the Moto 360 event, what
they created an event, and their goal was to have a hangout with the event, hangout on air with the event. At some point, they created a hangout that was private, and so then all the people who were watching wanted to join the hangout to watch. So the 6,500 people were trying to join the hangout. So now you got all these people clicking this button. You got freaking things happening in the background. They didn't know what the heck was going on.
what happened to me was, like I said, I was like, I had my shopping cart. I'm at Walmart, and so I kept seeing it, and I knew it was after the time it was supposed to start, so I thought maybe they had changed something. So I saw the option said join the hangout, right? And I was like waiting to watch the hangout. So I thought, well, maybe they've changed the wording. So I'll click this, and then I'm standing in aisle 17 at Walmart, and it says you are entering a video call. And I was like, whoa, so I back out. And I don't want to be on the Motorola 360. I don't know anything about it.
This is, and I could start ranting about events to no end, and this would be one of them. And this was part of the. It wasn't even the entire problem. It was part of the problem. There were so many problems with what they were trying to do.
So many things going wrong.
And it's certainly possible to navigate setting up events and a hangout on air correctly, but it's incredibly difficult.
And this is still technically a Google-owned company, right? I mean, they haven't finished the sale. I mean, Motorola's owned by Google.
Technically, Motorola is selling. That's not relevant, to be perfectly honest.
You'd think that they'd know how to use the Google product, but this gets
Why would you think that?
Pam Silos, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do my Google Plus week, and then Alan. So the first thing is we had a comment about you can't embed a URL in the comments. I think you can't on YouTube, but if you post on our any of our posts, like most of us share the posts, if you do that, then we see it. They're all aggregated here. And in fact,
you want me to start ranting again, don't you, Dan? I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, if they're going to combine, Google Plus and YouTube comments, then they should do just that, right? But they've still got the 13-year-olds on YouTube, and they're worried about, whatever. So that, and then my week was print week, so it was nuts, and I'm basically a zombie. I took a nap before the show, but I only got like 45-minute nap on 5 hours. I was up till 5 a.m. last night, and then I woke up. Like usual, you can't like stay up that late and then get up early. But I got a couple potential sales reps lined up, so I'm excited locally, and all that good stuff. We got a couple new products coming out, so we're excited about that. And it was kind of a, I don't know, typical week, I guess, in my Google Plusdom, my Google Plus week. Alan Furstenberg in New York. How was your Google Plus week? You had a presentation you made this week, I believe, if I'm
I
not
had an
mistaken.
incredibly busy week. I've got an incredibly busy next week as well.
And you were rudely
last-
interrupted by in your presentation by some jerk. I heard. Someone-
Yes. Dan was an excellent example in my presentation of what we refer to as an unpleasant experience. I did a presentation Wednesday night on developing or designing for Google Glass in front of an audience of about 400 people. It went reasonably well. The video is up and available. I've linked to it from my profile if you're interested in watching. Coming up on Tuesday, I've got several more presentations about Google Glass and augmented reality. That is going to be interesting. And Sunday, I am hoping to go to a Glass office hours for developers in Boston. So if any of our viewers are in the Boston area this Sunday from 4 till 7, I believe, take a look at Timothy Jordan's stream. There's an event posted there. And in fact, there are also additional events in the Boston area going into the beginning of next week, which I think many people will find interesting.
When is the Google conference thingy out here again?
That is at the end of June, and you and I need to talk about actually seeing each other at some point during that event.
It'll be easier for me to fly up there, but I just need
It is the last full week. Let's put it, I am planning on being on the West Coast the last full week in June, and I can't believe I just said that on the air.
That's okay. That's okay. The hired security that you have for your house is good, right?
Yeah.
Sheila DeVois will protect your house. Don't worry.
And my Rottweiler. We'll talk, Pam. I guess it's no surprise that I am going to, that I intend to be going to I/O though, so that none of our viewers should be surprised by that at any rate. So that was last week was great. Next week is looking to be great. I did also get signed up for the hunt. Cadeus, you were asking me about the hunt. Were you able to sign up?
No, because I was 30 minutes behind your post. I hadn't read Google Plus all day, but I was paying attention to the other stuff. And so by the time I got in to actually look at everything, it was all closed. It said like 44 minutes or so. It was shut down. So
pay attention next time.
The key is you put her in a circle and you put her on notify. Then you don't miss a thing.
Awesome. Okay, so Alan, stick around for a sec. I got to ask you a question. Thank you all very much for watching. We really appreciate it. Thanks to the panel, the Sheila and Pam and Cadeus and Alan, who are the stragglers at the end, and Gluttons for Punishment. We appreciate that. So, folks, we do 2 shows. We do our Android Week, which is Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. We do this program, Google Plus Week, at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Although everyone was late, ironically, I was the only one on time tonight. But Pam was off camera, and Cadeus was driving, and Alan was in a boat or car.
But I was on time. I mean, I was in the car, but I was on time.
He was on time. Absolutely. So, but we really appreciate your comments, and you're as much a part of the show as anybody on the show. So we're all teams. So I appreciate that very much. And thanks to the folks who watch afterward. We really appreciate you as well. And please comment away. And plus mention us in the comments, and we'll see it easier. But during the show, wherever you comment, if it's on Google Plus or YouTube Live, then we'll see it, and we love that. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule when there's so many things you could be doing otherwise. And until next week, have a wonderful Google Plus week.